All right, we're live. Jeez. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to International Herb. Hey, what's up, Peter? All right, so good morning, everybody. It's Saturday morning at 9 o'clock in the Bay Area. I've been out of the show for a while, and I am excited to share some cool information with you guys. Today's show, we're going to be talking about Pakistani Landrace seeds or Pakistani Heirloom seeds. These seeds are from Landrace.Genetics, who are very kind to share these genetics with us. And hopefully, we'll be able to get a few of the other people from. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some other people from my little grow off. So let me back up. I was gifted, and I might have already gone over this before, but I was gifted a bunch of landrace seeds or heirloom seeds from Landrace.Genetics from Pakistan. Also, Kevin Jodry gifted me some of those same seeds from their adventure. If you want to look back regarding that adventure, there are some podcasts regarding that, which I hope are still up. I know GW Smoke Break has some podcasts that are also regarding this really cool trip to Pakistan, and I believe they want Landrace.Genetics has hosted people multiple years because I know like 555 Genetics has been there as well, and um, today we will talk about what we're seeing in those populations. Um, But first, to back up, was gifted these seeds. Was gifted like a bag of a whole bunch of various different selections. Let me see if I can find some of them. Awesome. All right. What's up, everybody in the chat? I can see you guys. So was gifted some various packs that looked similar to like this. Was this Hispar? Cashmere. And probably the coolest ones are these ones that have first a number and then a letter. So the number is the location and the letter is that specific plant. And I was gifted, geez, almost like 20 packs or something, like a lot of seeds and way too many that I was able to sprout by myself, especially with, plant counts and the amount of space people have. Was not able to sprout all of those seeds plus all of the other, of my own seeds and of clones and of things that I've bred in the past that I wanted to look into. So I essentially had all of these seeds and not enough time to sprout them, which is something that a lot of people who watch this show can relate to. Um, what made this more pressing to me is that these are, pretty unique seeds that are not things that are able to just be, retrieved by just purchasing them from somebody. They're hard to get. I was gifted these seeds. Geez, this was like 3 years ago now, 3.5 years ago. And, as I was looking through my seeds this year, I realized like there's no way that I'm going to get through all these seeds. And, you know, they should be grown and there should be more of them made and they should be shared. So, I took a cue from what is it, Boston Bob's like grow alongs or yeah, Boston Bob's grow alongs, which I thought were super cool. And so, I put something out on FCP if people were interested in doing a Pakistani grow along. And through the Pakistani grow along, I was able to get about, I think it's like 6 or 7 people in our group who are growing various Pakistani seeds that I was gifted. The goal is to have people grow them, document what they saw, make some more seeds, and share them, and we can just kind of go along from there. Um, so sure, let me open up my window. So part of why, in my opinion, it's useful to grow heirloom landrace type of genetics is because besides besides growing flowers that you can smoke, you're also going to learn a lot about what's inside of the cannabis genome. You'll learn a lot about cannabis genetics, and for me, that's honestly even more of a benefit than smoking the flower. Is all of the things that you're able to observe, able to learn when you're able to observe and contrast compared to modern genetics, compared to, I don't know, early hybrids or 90s, early 2000s genetics. And you can contrast that with these heirloom and landrace genetics. You're able to kind of see the differences and similarities and learn a lot because there are a lot of differences. And yeah, basically, this is probably the first, I don't know, the first third of the growing season has passed us. And in this podcast, I'm going to share with you the things that I've observed, the things that I've learned so far this year. And, I hope that you guys will able to use this information to enrich your growing acumen. All right, so let me bust out with my book. All right, so this conversation is mainly going to be about genetics that are from the point of origin, so not remakes that have been made stateside or wherever you're from, but things that are from directly from wherever they're from, so directly from Pakistan. Um, all right, so some of the first things that I've learned from this year is one, planting time. These lines are they have an extremely longer veg time than what we're used to, or that most of the genetics that we're working with are used to. So these plants generally trigger with a lot less flowering, a lot less light than, let's say, I don't know, all the genetics that I'm working with right now. So for example, I have a C5, which is a Neville's Hayes cross. And my C5s are just starting to go into flower, and my Pakistanis have not even started to stretch. They're still full on veg. There aren't any of the pre the pre female hair shooting out. There's none of that. It's still just straight veg. Still just straight vegging. Um, and as far as planting time, I planted these I sprouted these plants. I think it was either April or May, and they're currently over 6 feet tall. So they're, I would almost argue, a little bit too tall than what I would want. These plants are also they're in like 15-gallon grow bags, and they've already completely taken up the whole grow bag. They need to be watered essentially every other day at least, um, for them to not wilt. So, the root zone. So here, let me keep focusing back. So planting time, when you're working with heirloom lines, particularly from Pakistan, Afghanistan, I would argue that you almost want to plant them a little bit later than you might be thinking, because they stretch a lot and they get really big and they don't flower. Their trigger time is a bit later, as particularly for where I'm located in the Bay Area of Northern California. Um, Also, their finishing time is going to be a lot later than, Croptober. It'll generally be like a crop November or crop December. So that is something that you really do want to keep in mind, and depending on where you're located, have that, prepare for a much later trigger and a much later finishing time. um, when you're growing point of origin genetics, I'll call them, so like genetics that are from a specific place, I think it's really important to at least do a small amount of research on that area and on the longitude of that area. So essentially, how close that area is to the equator. That will give you a lot of information regarding how much light these plants are used to getting. So the closer they are to the equator, the less light the more darkness they will need to go into flower. Um, Is it latitude? I'm pretty sure it was longitude when I was looking on the. So this way, I believe, is longitude. And yeah, the closer that you are to the equator, generally, the later in the season the plants will go into flower. And so for my research, the longitude of Pakistan was between 61 and 78 degrees. So that is considered subtropical. So these are a subtropical plant versus I'm living in the Bay Area of California and we're at 122 degrees longitude. And so that is definitely not subtropical. That's much higher up. There's a much larger swing in the light cycle, and that's just something that is super super important to keep in mind when you're working with when your latitude is along the equator, longitude is pole to pole. Yeah, yeah. So we're doing longitude. Um, and that's just something that's super important to be aware of. I mean, it literally takes you 3 seconds on your phone and you can figure this out. And this will really give you a better idea of essentially your planting time and your finishing time and what size pots you're going to use. Now, also, when you're growing point of origin genetics, I would I would encourage people to grow outside. I encourage people to grow outside regardless. But another really big thing that I've noticed is the taproot. The taproot of these plants is much, much more aggressive. Um, these plants fill out their pots much quicker. These plants are able to grow in much lower quality soil, so you don't really need to take your plants and put them in. You don't need to purchase soil to plant these plants. You can literally plant them in the ground in whatever your native soil is, and generally they should be fine. And the more that I'm observing and growing these genetics, it almost seems like I wish that I put these plants in the ground, because we're like a third of the way through this harvest and the plants are already root bound in the pots that I had assumed they were going to be growing their whole life in. And generally anything bigger than like a 10 or 15 is kind of difficult to pick up and move around, but it looks like I'm going to need to pot these up into like 25s, something a bit bigger, because they already are needing to be watered like every other day, and it's not even really that hot out here yet. um, Also, keep in mind if these are point of origin seeds versus domesticated seeds, or something that was from point of origin that was then, you know, that done a seed expansion uh, over here in the United States. They're going to be different seeds. They're going to have different needs. And, these seeds have evolved to grow in a very particular climate. And when you move them from that climate, you have to be aware of kind of, uh, what the changes are. So that's something you should be aware of. All right, so this next one is something I've been kind of playing with a lot in my head and kind of trying to figure out, which is when you're getting something from, and this is a generalization. Generally, when you're getting things from heirloom populations, they're generally going to be open open population, meaning all the males or many males hit up many females, and so that you're going to have a wide variety of expressions. And I would try to contact, or I would contact Kevin Jodry and like kind of try to get as many tips and little tidbits of information about what they were seeing in those populations. And the main theme that I really got from him is that there's really so many the strength is in the variety. And the things that there's just so many different things, there's so many different smells, so many different morphologies, there's just a huge variety, and you have to understand that that is an open population versus selective breeding. And this is something I'm still wrestling with all the time is okay, so you have these genetics from, let's say, Pakistan. Do you want to go with continue with open pollination? Do you want to select one male and kind of just hope that that's the male and kind of go from there? Because also with growing genetics from other parts of the world, you notice that there's different ways of thinking about it. um, for us, it's generally like, okay, we want to find one male and we want to find the best female and we want to put those together to move them forward, and we want to have something that's extremely predictive and has specific traits that we know that we can count on. And generally those specific traits are within like the finished product and the flower and the flavor and the bud structure and all of those things. And when you're working with genetics from Pakistan, generally it's more of a survivability are the traits that they're looking for. The product is all homogenized into a extract, and so it's not really a focus on like a specific plant or a specific flavor or a specific effect, but more of like the average of all of them combined and how that becomes a specific flavor effect. And that's just a completely, in my opinion, almost like a more sophisticated way of looking at it than like us just picking one plant and going to exploit this one plant for all of these certain traits. So when I have these populations, it's definitely difficult to figure out, okay, like, do we want to continue on with these selective breeding populations and kind of narrow it to certain areas, or do we want to keep it as like open as possible? And kind of like what it goes back to for me is like, well, the whole reason of why we're interested in the whole reason of why we're interested in finding genetics for growing genetics from Pakistan or growing genetics from other places around the world is because the things that we're growing now already are such bottlenecked, are already very particular, and there's already a very narrowing of the gene pool. And so part of me is like, okay, no, if we're working with genetics from somewhere else, we want to have as wide of a population as possible. But at the same time, within our culture and society, we're not looking for the widest variety of these things in that way. I feel like we're more looking for particular things that have certain traits that we can then exploit for whatever need we want to use. So that's really something that I've been contemplating, I guess, wrestling with, is like when you find, when you're working with genetics from other places, do you just keep open pollinating, or do you kind of go more towards selective breeding of particular things? And actually, I would be very curious to see people in the chat you know, what your recommendations, if you think these things should be, just continuously open pollinated, or if you think they should be. Okay, let's hear what Ron Skateboard says. I would hope the growers would keep. Keep a cutting of a standout plant while doing open pollination. Yeah. I mean, in the ideal world, I think that that's awesome. Zombies says maybe OPs, both. Does it take too long? Um, yeah, and I mean, it's like when you start the year, you have all these plans, and then like when you get the plants going and you have your plant counts and all of that, it generally, all of the different things that you're looking to do sometimes kind of get thrown by the wayside by like the practicalities. uh, to me, continuous open pollination is just ensuring hard work for the next yeah. I mean, one of my friends said, so I won't. He said so and so breeder doesn't make selections so that you can make the selections, but it's like the selections is kind of like the whole point of the work is to make a selection in a particular direction. Um, yeah, the space is an issue with open pollination. And like also it's kind of like, okay, like how often do you need to open pollinate something? It's like if these things have been open pollinated, since these populations were around, do we need to keep open pollinating them? Or, should we kind of be going in a certain direction eventually? Because, maybe, we're not really breeding and we're more just like seed making or like keeping this, keeping our options open. Um, and it's like if you're not open pollinating then, or if you're open pollinating and you're not selective breeding, it, I don't know. I really don't know. But as of right now, what I'm doing is I picked one male, so I guess that means I'm not open pollinating. I have my 6 females, and kind of where I'm going is like, okay, the reason why you select or you open pollinate is because you're trying to um, concentrate certain traits, right? You're trying to like make it so that the next time you look into those seeds, there's more of one thing and less of something else. And kind of what I've been thinking is the traits that I'm selecting for in these plants are for vigor. I mean, essentially, it's vigor. So like it's plant height, root strength, resistance, um, less labor, less, stronger stems that can be held up. And so to me, essentially, all of those things really just come down to vigor. And my hope or my theory is that because these genetics have been open pollinated so many times and selected for vigor and for survivability, those traits are already pretty locked in. And so that I can go for more of a selective breeding, and that even in my selective breeding, there still is going to be extremely wide range of variability because they've been open pollinated forever. That's just generally how these lines have been done. And if I can use these plants for particularly that trait, which is, vigor, resistance, strength, late flowering, probably resistance to botrytis, those sorts of things, those are the traits that. Oh, can you get the code to get on the show? Yeah, THC Garage. It should be on our little feed. There should be a link. Yeah, you should be able just to click that link and jump right on under our Pakistani seed hunt um, group. Yeah, you should be able to just click that. Um, so yeah, essentially, that's where I'm going is like, okay, the traits that I'm going to be selecting for with these plants are going to be things that help with survivability. And essentially, that's, when I asked Kevin Jodrey, that's the things that he really said dominate. Those are the things that these plants are selected for, is survivability. And, I think that's a great thing. So then the next part kind of goes into, okay, so I was going into like pot size and root vigor. Pot size and root vigor are probably the two biggest things that I probably made a mistake on this round, and also that I'm still trying to like truly understand, because these plants have true vigor that I'm not really used to seeing in a lot of cannabis genetics. And the pot size really dictates the size of the plant, but something I'm learning is that if you have a plant that's, if I click the link, yeah, it should link into the what I, kind of figuring out is like, if you have plants that have super vigorous root zones and you put them in a small pot, the roots just kind of colonize that pot really really quickly, and then you just have this really root bound pot. Root bound, yeah, you have a root bound pot, and the plants just, it just needs water extremely often. And that's not really a great thing. Probably my biggest mistake would be, I wish that I would have planted these plants in the ground, because that's what they're designed for. And yeah, that's what they're designed for. And you can kind of see that they need, that they need a bigger pot. And I mean, it sucks to have to water your plants when they wilt each time. I particularly don't like that. I really prefer to water my plants before they wilt. Um, yeah, if there's any questions in the comments, please, please don't hesitate. Um, Another thing that I've observed is like the amount of stretch in these plants. They stretch a lot, and there seems to be a lot of internodal spacing. Initially, this is something that you don't really want, right? Like, we like our plants to be stacked really tight. Um, have you listened to Snow High interview on the podcast? Yeah, I love Snow High's interview on the podcast. That was amazing. I've listened to it multiple times. I'm growing some Snow High stuff actually as we speak. I'm curious if Snow High is still selling seeds, because I haven't been able to contact him in quite a while. But yeah, I have listened to his, and it is super interesting. Um, so yeah, what I was saying is, nodal spacing on a lot of these plants is really, there's a lot of space on a lot of these nodes. Generally, it's something I haven't seen on that many genetics. Actually, the one person that I've noticed their genetics do have a lot of that large spacing. Okay, let me back up. So it's a lot of spacing on juvenile plants. So you'll notice with certain lines, when you first start growing them, it's like tons of stem, not a lot of branches. And I noticed that when I grew some Mean Gene genetics, and I have a homie this year who is growing Lime One Hindu, and those are the tallest plants in his garden. They start off very, very lanky, but once they get going into like mature veg, the nodes, tighten up to like kind of where they need to be. But you definitely notice that the plants kind of like stretch up a lot before they really start putting on any branches. And, depending on your situation, like for indoors, I don't know if that would be ideal, but I'm noticing that with outdoor, it just kind of helps get the plants nice and tall and kind of like away from the ground before they then start putting on all those leaves. And so then this is like another thing where, probably planting them a bit later in the year would be advantageous. Um, Quick anecdote, one of the members of our group is in San Diego, and sent him some seeds, sprouted some of them didn't go. Sent him some more seeds, I think some of them went. He might have had like one or two that were able to germinate. And the spacing is there's tons of spacing. But what I've realized is like right now his plants are at like a foot, maybe 2 feet tall. But when they go into flower, they'll be just fine. All right, we have THC Garage on.
What's up, man? It's been a minute.
What's up? How are you
How
doing?
you doing? Good. Trying to see if I can put it sideways, but they don't let me do it.
Hell yeah. I don't know if we've ever, met in person or spoken.
No, to be honest, this is the first time we're actually having a conversation person to person, which is nice to meet you though.
Heck
You
yeah.
know?
It's very nice to meet you. And you did the Runs Panama Red, correct?
Yeah, I did the Ron's Panama Red, which is Toxic Red. Everybody knows it for Toxic Red.
Yes. It,
And yeah, and I also did some work with you, Malawi, the honey lion to the Malawi that you sent me, about a
Mhm.
year ago, something like that.
Sure.
So I did some work with that. I love that plant, man. The pheno freaking skate out of my fingers, man. The clones didn't survive, so I lost the big pheno, the big tall pheno, which was my favorite,
Yeah.
because I find the small pheno and then I found the tallest pheno, which is the big one that I have to bring in the garage, which I think had the more profile from the Hanilei and the Malawi combined. But
Yeah.
the end of it, when it was cured, it was, man. If you, I think the Hanilei really comes through the flower and end of it.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
does.
it really does. And I love the bigger the plant, man. I love to assist that. And I did a C increase, so I back it up in case you need it back or
Okay.
something.
Sick.
So
Sorry for the. I mean, I'm apologizing to our listeners, but dude, I'm super stoked on your Toxic Red. I
oh,
generally
nice.
I don't. I mean, I've never grown runts. I've just never really been interested in that kind of stuff. But as soon as I saw that you had it was runts by Panama Red, and I was looking at your page and seeing like they were huge. And I'm sure there was like a nice mix of Panama and runs terps in there. I was like, I'm doing this. This is gonna be the first runs cross that I'm growing. And yeah, the pictures
Nice.
look fire. I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty unique. It's pretty unique because it's got the 50-50 pretty much. Some of the phenos really got that 50-50 mix between Panama and Rons. And if you're familiar with Rons, you will recognize that flavor right away. If you smoked Rons before. And the Panama, it just brings that little spice with that piney to it. And some phenos, they just different, like really wires phenos. Like the pheno number one, it was completely mental pine to it, and it stayed green. It didn't went red like the rest of it in purple, because there's some purple and red phenotypes in there, and some of it the green. But the pheno number one stayed green all the way, even into cure time, and it was the only one that was different.
very nice. And like, how is like, are there phenos that are like the size of a Panama Red, but like with some runts terps in there?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The pheno number 10, because we ran when before I released it, I ran like, I don't know, 60 some, 68 different seeds, just to see what it was in the gene pool before I release it to anybody. It's in my IG. You did it. You can see it. It's a big facility, and everything is in there. So we run a big hunting, a pheno hunt to see what was in the gene pool. So yes, it is some of the phenos that lean to the runs. The structure is runs, the smell, the look, but they have that twist from the Panama Red. They got bigger, because if you seen the clone, I got the clone. I use the clone. If you seen the clone is a little weak the way it grows. It's got nugget here, nugget here. It's got that OG typical destruction. So when I hit that Panama male that I've been using for a while, because I know what it does, it just renewed the whole plan. It restructured the whole plan. Now you get those big spears, freaking colas on it, with the
Yeah.
structure that runs to steel. I mean, the looks, the purple, the torping profile is there. It just depends on the phenotypical expression that you have and your environment, because
Yeah.
we did it twice. We did it with the highlights and we did it with the LAD and we did it with mixed light. So I can see the difference as soon as we did the mixed light, because some of it they was right under the HPA and some of it they were right under LAD. So we can see how the phenols was expressed in different temperatures and different light spectrums.
Which one did you like better?
To be honest, the spectra it was more brighter and more solid with the HPS.
HPS is better. Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
generally my
Yeah,
cons-
we saw a little bit more stretch with the LADs because they got the little more red on it.
Mhm.
So they stretch a little bit more with it, but the terpene profile it was incomparable with the HPS.
Sorry, say that again. You said that Turbine Pro was
The terpene profile was not comparable with it was more terpene profile in the HPS the LADs.
yeah.
They still with the same amount of trichomes in the flower, but it was the terpene content it was way out of hand. Like it was more flavor to it, more color to it. They got more solid, more instruction to the flower.
And how many weeks did those take to flower? Like what was the range?
It's phenos they go 10 weeks, and it's phenos they go the earliest pheno that we find is 8 weeks,
Okay.
and the longest phenos that we find is 10 weeks.
10 is
But
not.
depend what you're doing. Depend what you're doing. You can cut it at night and wash it, or whatever you're trying to do. Catch it in that between 8 and 9. You can really catch what you're trying to do if you make hash or bubble
Interesting.
wash or what.
Okay. I mean, I have two of them in I have two of them in a 15 right now, and they are both just going into flower outside.
You in for it? Yeah, you in for a treat.
Uh,
you you in for a treat. Man, but yeah, man, it's nice to have a conversation with you, and I'm so stuck, man, that you let me in and be part of this Pinot hunt.
of
Through
course.
these seeds, the Pakistani stuff, man. I really, really, I'm a fan, man. I love what you're doing, with genetics and the way you select and the wealth you have for the plant,
Gosh, thank you. I'm
it's, it's,
blushing. I
it's really, yeah.
appreciate it.
And I mean, you can see, when people, the motivation is different. You know what I mean? The
Thank,
relationship between you and the plant is epical. We can see, I can see it. You know what I mean? It's not just growing because I think it's medical purpose for you too, also.
yeah, and I mean, like a big thing I like to promote on my show is like half of the medicine is in our conversations, half of the medicine is like in growing the plants and in making these connections. You know what I mean? Like it's not
Right.
just in consuming it, but like in
Right.
this, in like meeting new people that have the same relation, that also have a relationship with the plant and learning about new genetics because one day maybe I can't smoke weed and I would hope that I can still have a relationship with it.
Oh,
And
nice. Yeah.
actually small side note, so I'm part of this Origins Council. So we're like studying genetics in California and genetics that have been bred in California. And we had this meetup.
Nice.
One of the people in the group, oh my God, I can't. Mike Coral is his name, and he's one of the people that helped write Prop 215.
Oh,
So
wow.
he's super OG in the game. Much respect, much love to him, and he busted out with some weed for everybody to smoke, and we were all super stoked about it, and we're like, oh, are you gonna hit it? And he's like, nah, like I don't really consume anymore, but
Mm,
he still grows hella, and like he still was passing
wow.
the doobies, and he was still stoked to hear what we thought about it. And to me that was just so special that it's like like your relationship with it can continue to evolve, right? But it's still that's like my goal is like to have the relationship to keep evolving,
Right.
because I mean we can't just be like commercially cropping in perpetuity. It's like we got to kind of continue to evolve with, with what we're, with the plant evolves, we evolve with it.
Right.
And that's what's beautiful about it. That's why, like, I used to have East, or I still have East Bay Seed Collective, but now we're doing like these grow alongs, because when you have all these seeds, like I can only grow so many seeds, but
Right.
I can share them with other people. And that's what, that's kind of my thing, is like being able to evolve with the plant, because I don't want to still just be, cropping hard like I did in 2002 when I was 23 years old, because I'm 45 now, or 44, and things have changed, and
Right.
that's okay. um
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. The longest we grow in and implementing our knowledge just in the building the
yeah.
relationship. You know.
So my question for you is, do you have any of those Pakistanis in the background there that we can look at?
Ooh, I was waiting for that question. I mean, I got two different because you sent me like three or four different packages. I have it right here, but I have a hard time to germinate one of them, which was the. Oh, and I was gonna ask you this. Do you notice that in some of the seeds they're almost purple on those ones? Do you notice that? I don't know who got the. It was the Masari from 2001. I
uh,
didn't have it. Yeah, it was this one.
okay.
And this one, what I'm saying, that was really unique. They I see purple seeds, and the seeds that were purple. Even the coating outside, it looks purple.
Cool. No, I mean,
Which
I
I don't,
don't.
I don't know if you noticed that or anybody noticed that the Masari, it's got that purple probably the cyanide on it.
So you were the only. So whoever got a pack of seeds, those were the only pack of those seeds given out.
Oh man, man, I feel bad now.
I mean, it's all good. Like, they were gifted to me. You know,
Yeah,
Landrace.Genetics was like, "Hey, do you want a bunch of seeds?" And I said, "Yes, please." And they sent them to me.
yeah,
So, like, some of them went, some of them sprouted, some of them didn't, and that's just kind of how
yeah.
it went.
This one, they never sprout. Like they didn't got moldy. They didn't create anything. They had a pathogen or anything. They just never popped. They never come out of the shell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know if it did because they were all I mean it's just I might have been just time.
And
But I mean
and I've also noticed, like, I feel like the quality of the seeds from things that are from other places are not as good as when they're, like when they travel. I don't think these seeds are these plants aren't grown for seed, you know what I mean? They're grown for
you're
flower.
right,
So, like, some of
right.
the seeds are ripe, some of them aren't. It's like, I know, like, when Kevin Jodry and like those guys are doing their hunt, they're pulling those seeds out of fresh plants,
Oh wow.
right? So they have to pull
That
them out.
that's
Sorry?
that's crazy.
Yeah, they pull them out of the fresh plants, and then they have to like dry them, but they're not like sitting in one place for like weeks, you know what I mean? They're like traveling
Right.
around. So that's also something that oh yeah, nice fatty. So that's also something that I've kind of learned, is like,
Yeah.
when you get heirloom seeds, you have to sprout them right away. Ooh, what is that?
This is Mandarin cookies time, Durban Poison F3.
Mandarin cookies?
Yeah.
Is that from Ethos?
Ethos. That's from Ethos, yes.
Nice.
I take the Mandarin cookies, I got it as S1 and I take it to F3 and I cross it to the male, the Durban Poison male.
What's the terp profile like?
Oh man, it's like a mentally. It's got the Mandarin on it that is hiding until you break it. You can smell it, but it's got this mentally almost licorice to it.
Interesting. When you said that, it reminded me of when Bam did a Puna butter cookies,
Mm,
and he said like it just like unlocked all of these, like the vigor in the cookies, right?
right. Yeah, because if you think about it, the way I was thinking and the thought that I went into it when I did it, it's already had Durban in it. So if you introduce something that's Durban already, especially in the male side, that already is to F3, it's going to be more dominant in that cross if you're right. So that's the direction I went into it. Not to change anything else, just introduce a new Durban into the genetic pool since already it's a Durban, and just to improve that side. That's why I did it. Because the Mandarin cookie by itself is just a strong Mandarin, profile. So just to count it down, I went back into Durban through the male side, and that's where it come out. It really turned the Mandarin cookie side down, but intensifies the Durban size a little bit.
Did you get any terpinolene in there, or is it still mainly like cookie?
Some of the phenos, they're not strong on it, but it's there. It's
Okay,
some of the phenotypes, yeah. And some of the phenotypes they got dark purple, which I've never seen in a Durban. I've seen it in a Durban, but just in you know what I mean, in one or in one in freaking 300 seats or something. This one is like almost consistent. They go purple, and then
interesting.
yeah. And I don't know if it does come from the because I've seen it in the Durban. I know the Durban has some purple in it, but also the Mandarin cookies has some notes of purple into it. So yeah, it's wonderful from the morning, like right now, to be awake, have a conversation. It's amazing.
Excellent. And how many weeks do those take?
I take it to nine and a half
Okay, I
because
mean that's
no, they're not bad. I mean, they really tone it down. I mean, I think that because the F3 is the from Shooter. I'm pretty Shooter.
shooter.
You know him. He said he's in the chat. I think Peter know him, but that's where I got the Durban from Shooter. So that was the S3 already worked out to S3. He's already selected for the smallest and fastest, probably. You
Okay.
know. So and I think that's what that comes from. And the Mandarin cookie is really in 7.5 week, 8 weeks. It's not that long flower
Yeah.
female that I use. So I kind of pair it right. And I haven't seen issues like the structure is almost every single phenotype had the same structure. It's just the color change in the structure and the tallest. And the top profile it just varies, you know, which is really interesting. And depend what you like. Like I say, a lot of people don't like that licorice, heavy licorice flavor to it. So by putting something sweet to it, not overtaking the flavor, it just melts it down a little bit.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I keep going back to that yard, and especially in the mornings, because it wakes my brain up. It really wakes you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
ready to go.
No, that's sweet. I think like I want to get it. I want to do to play something, but I think okay, wait. Yeah, I might be locked in my bedroom. I think my wife closed the door and I'm locked in here, so I can't try anything until she comes back.
And to she's just like it.
Yeah, she doesn't want our daughter to jump into the podcast, and so she locked me in here,
Oh man.
and now I'm stuck. So like, um, let's see these.
Well, this is what this is. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, it's all good. I was just saying, you want? Can we see some packies? Some
Yeah,
Pakistan.
this is the stitch. Let me see. I can get them out. Let me open the tent because I have it in the tent. I haven't put them outside. Actually, gonna put them tonight outside and let them rip. And that was interesting what you were saying though today when you started the show about timing your seats out because they don't want to give 6, 7 toes. So that's pretty much what I did. I kind of hold into it to the last minute, to put them outside. But let me open the tent and I can show
Yeah,
you.
let's see.
And I just been cleaning them up. They're really ready to go in the big old pad. They really need new shoots. And I got some of you. I don't know if that's what the picture you was talking about. I got some of you mango Malawi, and
Yeah.
that might have been the last picture that I sent you. The last video that I sent you was like all together, all the Pakistanis and the two mangoes.
Okay.
Oh, let me see. Let me flip this around. I got some Acapulco gold growing too, and a Colombian gold. Oh, This is the ones. Some of it they have I haven't sexting. They haven't sex for me. The only ones that sex is let me see. I can take it. This is one of the mango Malawis right here.
Nice.
See this. And I love the Malawi, bro, because I think you can recognize the Malawi fever before like when it passes over, like literally. They're beautiful plants, man. I like
Yeah.
this.
No, and
Eating.
it's super dominant too. The Malawi is fairly dominant in there.
Yeah, that's the mango Malawi. That's Pinot number one. Let me see if I can find the other Pinot. Oh, it's right here. So this is the two that I have. It's like an almost identical to it.
Nice. Those are pretty wide leaves too for a sativa plant.
Yeah. What is the mango? What is really the mango? What does genetic pool come from? What is
So
it?
it's a KC Brains mango, which was circulated in like Oaksterdam area, like early 2000s. And
Oh
then,
wow.
yeah, and then like I believe like my homie Grasshopper, who I get majority of my genetics from, he was growing this mango cut in early 2000s, like Oaksterdam cut, and then the mango was like there were seeds in the mango, and so
Yeah.
it may be a mango S1 or it may be mango by mystery,
Oh
but
nice.
generally it breeds extremely dominant for mango. It's very chunky. It's not like a mango haze type of thing. It's
Right.
definitely. Are you familiar with Casey Brain's work at all?
Yeah. I got some of his stuff a while back. I think I have the Thunder, either the Thunderfire crosses from him. He
Oh,
got
interesting.
some he got some Thunderfire crosses from him and some other Indica stuff.
And
I have
like
to look at my package, but yeah, I'm familiar with his work. Yeah.
I recall like his lines were like numbers. So it was like KC 33, 34. And I believe the mango was like 33 by 36. Okay, so you have 6D.
Yeah, can you see it?
Yeah, for sure.
6D, and that's Pinot number two, and that is the other Pinot, 6D Steve. So that is that pop four seeds and two come out, and this is the two that come out of there. They haven't sexed yet. Well, actually, this one have a head on it, so this is a female.
Nice.
See, it's the head right there. It might have been come out last night or something. But yeah, this is a female, and this is the other one, which is from the same, the same six type, the 6D, whatever that is,
Okay.
you know.
Has that one
Yeah.
showed sex yet?
No, no, this one, but this one did. The other side, yeah, the female number two.
Okay.
This one, no, I can barely see it. See, that's what I was saying too. I was gonna ask you because I'm having hard time, So I know uh the long flower for the area they are, but I didn't know how fast they would show the sex since we moving out of the environment that we they pick them out from. But yeah, this is the 6D, which I don't know exactly, what zone or what field that was.
I
But
mean,
look
I
at this one,
I mean that one looks stacked, and the other one looks like it's like that's those node spacing is a lot closer than some of the other
right? Look at this one.
ones. And that yeah, that one's a bit more spaced out.
Open up a little bit, you see,
Yeah.
and the for morphology, they almost, you know. This one is more wider. I think it's got more leaves, wideness off of it.
What have you
But
been?
that's the
I'm sorry.
no. Go ahead. What's it?
I was saying, what have you been feeding these?
Oh, I've been doing what do you call it? Green grow. Are you familiar with green grow?
Yeah.
Yeah, I use his veggie and his bloom. That's what I run. It's organic, and I use that dress. and I use when I'm the last 2 weeks I use humble flower bloom.
And do you notice that they need just as much fertilizer as your other plants, or a little bit
Actually,
less?
no. Actually, I don't. Actually, if I'm trying to figure like if I touch rice too soon, I can see it. They didn't like it. Like
Hmm.
uh, like I tend to touch rice. Like right now, the in vegetation, I just sprinkle some in it, and I just do a compost tea, and I just water it to activate.
Hmm.
So if I do it every 3 weeks, because they're like 2 months old right now, I think. Let me see the day. Yeah, 2 months old. So. Uh, I've been feeding every 14 days, so I touch rest every 7 days or 14 days, and that looks like they don't want too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're happy with the small amount, and I'm kind of learning this too because that's what the reason I do less. The recommendation I do like if you told me 2 tablespoons, I do one. You
yeah,
know what I mean? So and then I adjust it as I go. Like if I feel like it was enough. I just leave it alone. But if I feel like it's missing some, I just do like a half another tablespoon or whatever. But
yeah.
yeah, so and I mean, some of it that you can see, you notice it. I mean, some of it they really didn't like to be fed that much, and they didn't drink that much water right now. Like I've been watering every I don't know 3 4 days in a 1 gallon pot.
Okay,
So I mean, they're not completely, and they're under the lights like 600 watts.
okay.
So, and pretty much they're getting 18.6. And I don't know if I need to do less than that. I was thinking about that, and I was gonna pick your mind about that because I know I might have to be running it like probably less hours, like 16.8 or something.
I mean, I would be willing to bet that they can veg under 14 hours, 14:10.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's even doper.
that
Oh
would be
man.
that would be my bet because I mean it's less than 14 hours of light where I live in California in the Bay Area, and my plants aren't even they haven't even shown like what are they called, like primordial hairs.
Right.
They haven't even shown any of those yet.
Right. And this is the other sister. We got the C8
I'm sorry, which one is that? The
six eight,
okay,
and that's two females out of those two. I only popped three out of those, and two come out pretty fast. It was the first one to come out of the ground. This one, it was the first one to germinate. So this one, they was a little more stronger. They come out of the ground in 24 hours. So this one, they're a little bit older, about a week and a half maybe. But you can see it's just this is beautiful. I love the structure out of this one a lot. Like literally, it just goes out and it goes to straight up in the 45 degrees.
now my question is there a particular reason that you veg them inside and then put them outside the flower?
What was that? Sorry.
Is there a particular reason that you're vegging them inside and putting them outside to flower? Besides just like
No, no, and then well, it's because it's been raining, but I put them up in the morning and I bring them in, so I acclimate the plants as I go. So that I've been putting them out for 2 3 hours outside. I just literally bring them in while I go, and I'm
okay,
letting acclimate to the sun, because I don't want it to get burned out. But they've been outside for almost 2 weeks, like every 2 hours in the morning, let the hands hit it, for an hour, 2 hours, and bring them inside before I go to work. And I do the same thing tomorrow and bring them inside. And then I have a 25 gallons outside. They're gonna go in ready to go. So I'm letting it stack, and that's soy probably tonight, and let them read. So the next time you see them, they'll be outside in a 25 gallon pot.
sick.
Man, I hope they're all of them, the females, man, because I mean, I still want the fit in the male too, but I want to see the female expression too.
Yeah, is that a better? Let me think. Is that um? Are you noticing any like bug issues on them or anything like that? Everything looks good.
No, not right now. Until I put him outside, I'm really gonna see what what's gonna take off over there. Cause I can walk outside and I'll show you the plants I got outside in a minute. I got some Durban poison and some chat into the Panama Red. I got
Yeah,
some Jamaica
I mean, I think
purple.
you probably did things really well by controlling the size and then bringing him outside because, yeah, I mean, mine are
They
like,
will get huge. Yeah, yeah. And then also another thing that I'm here in Oklahoma. I'm in Oklahoma, but and we noticed uh that our weather changed, so we get longer summers now, like longer summers. Like we used to get the winter like by Thanksgiving. Now we get the winter until February, you know, until the next year, pretty much. So I don't get cold until the beginning of the year in here. So I'm gonna get sun all the way to the year, pretty much to the fall. So
so you're
that's a
saying, so
big
you guys,
switch for us. Yeah.
so like you can keep them up in November and things are okay.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. Exactly. And I also then I didn't want it to get that tall. I don't want it to go past 8 foot. You know. So I wanted to stay to control the size so I can really look at the plant formation, and I don't have to get a ladder. I mean, if I got to get a ladder, I got to get a ladder, you know.
No, I completely know what you're talking about. Here, I'm gonna take my phone and let me see if I
See, let me walk outside. Let me light this joint back up and let me walk outside. Okay? I'll show you what I have outside.
sure.
It
I'm gonna
might,
go
it
out.
might be, it might be pretty messed up because we just got the storm coming up last night, and I think destroyed some of the stuff.
Oh, you're back. Oh, you're back. All right, also I'm going to. Where am I? Sorry, Peter, for this.
Oh, Peter's enjoying this.
I can.
Where's Peter on the back?
Which one do you want me to remove? The desktop.
He's like remove both. So now that big daddy right there, that is that's Twin Peaks from Chad Westward and to Panama Red, and it's the Chat and to the Mexican IBL, and so it's three different plants in there, and that's the fastest thing I have. So this finished in the beginning of October, so before the October season, this will be out. So that's one of them, and then this one over here, this one is Jamaica Purple from Emit Others. I'm pretty sure everybody know what I'm talking about. Emilio that blessed me with some Jamaica purple. Uh, and that's one of the plants. So, and right beside it, I got the red chupacabra, which is the Mexican IVL female, and to the Panama red male.
Dude, those plants look huge.
Yeah, see, that's what I say. I put this in May. So, and they're straight into the ground. I mean, I just address the soil. They go straight. Look at this thing. Yeah, I plant it straight into the ground. Outside, I just plant it straight to the ground. Like this bed is 18 inches from the ground. As soon as they attach to the ground, they just go straight into the soil.
Impressive.
Yeah, look, this is the new bed. I just did this one this year actually. It's brand new. I got four different beds. So what I do, I rotate the beds. I let one year I grow in two beds, and I read the other one rest, and then I switch them back and forth. So I don't that you know what I mean. I don't stress the beds too much. But this is the order for. But
Nice.
that one's right there, Jamal. That right there is honey lay, trans Malawi, and Mexican IBL. I put the male Mexican male into it, and this is some of the babies.
I mean, I'm sure those ones are gonna get huge.
Yeah, yeah. I need to transplant them because they need a new shoe. I have it in a small pot, but they need to go on a 20 gallon or something. And
Awesome.
this one right here, this is the Panama Red. This is the Panama Red
Very nice.
by himself, and
All right,
everything is on the ground. So,
I'm gonna go down to like this little patch and show
oh,
off
sweet.
these plants to you guys. Um, wait, come on, Jamal. Back
Yeah,
camera.
yeah. Let me show you the Toxic Red. I got a Toxic Red over here by himself.
Come on, Jamal. Okay.
Yeah, this is Toxic Red, Pinot number 6.
Nice. Nice. I'll show mine in a second. I'm gonna go down these stairs right here. My sound may get cut off, but I want to see if I can show everybody my Pakistani. So like right
Oh,
here,
hell yeah.
here's one of them. All
Beautiful.
right.
He's a little.
He has a nice place too, man.
All right. Let me see if my reception will still good. So here's one. It's a little bendy, but still good. And then got this guy right here, or girl right here. She's looking pretty nice. And here's the last one. And there's actually this interesting trait on these where like the stems are like spiraling. If you can see that, it's
Yeah.
not it's not really going like too off of the same side, but they're like it's like I don't know if that's not considered like a triploid, but like the stems aren't like I don't know if like usually it's like two on one side and then two on the other side, but this one is like just one
I see it. Yeah. That's something.
all the way down, and I'm seeing that and like that's like one of the dominant traits that I'm for sure seeing is like how so like this one is how it's supposed to be, right? So it's like two this side, then two this side, two this side, then two this
Yeah.
side. But then after a while it starts going like one, 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 and just like spiraling up. I don't know if that's
Mm,
because it's flowering, but they're all I mean generally they're all doing that same thing. Like you can see this one, there's like three nodes going in like three separate
wow.
directions.
Yeah, I see
Um,
that.
and here's the male. It also is doing that same kind of thing where it's
Oh
just like,
wow, I see it.
yeah, it's like kind of going in all these different directions. So like, I don't know. I don't know if it's like when it starts going into flower slightly, it goes from like, two and two, then to like kind of offsetting, and then just starting to
Right for
offset
more weight.
more. So maybe that's like slightly when it's going into flower. And I'll go show the toxic red real quick.
Man,
But
that's
yeah, that's definitely a
beautiful,
really
bro.
interesting trait that I haven't
Yeah, that
seen.
was really cool. I have to look for that in the ones I have. I don't know if it's the same
So
tree
that that
stack,
that
but
that is 7D is that population. So here's the toxic
Oh
red,
my gosh, man, you got that big female.
and there's like two phenos in this one pot. Probably should
Wow.
have. And then here are some. Here's the mango Malawi.
Oh man.
Couple of
Yeah,
them that
those
are pretty
plants look
cool.
good, man. Yeah,
Um,
those mango malawi, they look really nice. I love the structure of them too.
so you'll probably like this one. Here is a flow lemon.
Ooh.
Those are pretty cool. Um, what was I gonna say?
Do you have any fire OG growing this year?
Any what?
Fire OG or Florida
Uh,
OG? Which one is the one you run? I know I saw some pictures
the
tonight.
Florida OG. I have the
The
Florida
Florida
OG
OG.
going. Um, here's the Florida. It's doing all right this year. It's like it's an old plant, so
Wow.
like I'm still trying to like figure her out.
Babysit
Um,
it.
but also this year, what I made last year, which was pretty cool, are these guys, which is a mango Z.
Oh man.
So that's a mango by Z3,
Wow.
and those ones I thought were pretty. That was probably like the. I mean, honestly, anything with mango in it does really well, right? So,
Right.
all right, here, let
Yeah,
me go
that's really dope, man. You got a
here. Let me
nice
go
place too.
inside. Hold on one moment.
Yeah, I got hot when I went outside. I got hot pretty fast. I was sweating.
All right, so here I'm gonna leave.
Mm, mm.
You're muted, Jamal.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Peter. Appreciate it. Um,
Yeah, he's in the back moving the stick.
so yeah, I mean that. So okay, so basically the plants that I grew were from the site of number 7.
Oh wow. Okay,
Because
so
so basically the first number is the site, and then the second
mhm.
number is the plant.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Mm.
Um, and so it was kind of cool to see like. Sorry, I can show it on like paper. So like,
Yeah, because I see some people on in the chat in IG that they're growing the 7-1 too, I think, or 7I. They're looking good plants. They're really
yeah,
tall plants too. They're really tall plants.
yeah, I know like 7C was like I sent some 7Cs to my homie in San Diego, and
Mm.
I mean those ones apparent like I saw somebody else had them in like Humboldt, and they were like the biggest ones. They were like 13 feet tall or something.
Jesus.
Um, but yeah, basically like generally like I'm used to seeing seedlings that look like this, right? Where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
the nodes branch off like that. But I'm seeing that like these ones is kind of like this. And
Right.
generally, I mean, you would think that that's like when they go into flower, they kind of alternate. But these ones, it seems like it's not even in flower. And plus, they're not just alternating like this, but there's actually like it's like like three. Like it goes like one
Oh
side,
wow.
other side, and then like one like in the front. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's an extra one, an extra branch growing on top of it.
Yeah, there's like an extra branch, and I mean, or like if you do like you'll have like one, two, and then this one kind of is like twisted, you know what I mean? So like it comes out like in front of you,
Right.
and then that one goes like behind.
Yeah.
These it's just like three of them like spiraling as they come out. Um
Wow. I see that. I see some of the stuff on and some of the what was that? It was the Indian land race. I saw that twist like a cross almost cross down like a twist almost himself, but still a branch, still another branch comes out. And I saw that in the Indian land race too.
yeah, I mean I mean like I said before, like in growing, heirloom landrace things, it's like you just kind of like learn more about the gene pool, about things that you've kind of like never really
Yeah.
seen before.
So
Um,
let me ask you this then: you think that's environmental, or just it's just the stress of the new environment?
I think it's genetics.
Cool. Because you see
Yeah.
it in more than one plant. You see it in.
I saw it. It almost looks like it's in most of those plants.
I have to look for that now because I haven't really have it until you mention it now.
I mean, I
Because if
generally
it,
don't.
let's say 6D is below and 7C or whatever, it's like couple blocks up. You know what I mean? So it might be the same almost gene pool if it's the same region, but in a different altitude.
I was trying to like get some clues from Kevin about like where the plants were from. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
where the plants were from and where these different things. And he was like not very. He was just kind of like they're just different places. And I mean, I guess that's true. Like I
yeah,
think there are Nangarhar is I believe where that is because God, what is his name? Danny Genetics, because
yeah.
he sells these genetics and like I look under like his descriptions and it says Nangarhar. So I believe that they're from the Nangarhar province
Okay, so that made more sense. So, okay,
because it was like I know like the C's were from Nangarhar, I think. And yours are what? H, you said? A B C D E's?
yeah, as 6H and 6D.
6D.
Yeah,
D6. Okay.
because yeah, D6 and H6.
And H6. Okay. So the D, I mean, the D location should be the same location as the ones that I'm growing,
Right.
and just a different plant. And the
Mm-hmm.
H, yeah, I don't know exactly where the H one is from. Um,
Cool.
ooh, somebody got the SFV from La Paz. Yeah, I've been looking at that SFV OG from him for sure. Um, but
Oh,
yeah,
he
I
got
mean,
the SB, huh?
but like for me, like this, this branching thing was very interesting to me. I mean, that seems like that could be, something worth, selecting for.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
I definitely saw that in the males also. So like that was interesting. Like I saw that in the
Huh.
males and in the females. So I was like, I'm I mean, it's just a guess, but I'm guessing that was a trait from the mom. If
Right.
you
If
know, if
it passed through.
yeah, so I'm guessing that's like a mom trait. Um, but I mean, there's still like I have no primordial hairs on any of the plants yet.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. It's kind of hard to section because it really only one of them show me the sex, which is the 6D,
Yeah.
D6, and I think as soon as I think I put it in a bigger pot, they will, and I put them outside because I only give them like 14 hours right now outside, 14 hours of lights. So that's gonna trigger pretty fast.
I mean, I would you would think that they would, but like I mean, like going back to like longitudinally, Pakistan is 61 to 78 degrees,
Ooh,
right? So that's
right,
subtropical.
right.
So
So
like
they will stretch a little more
I think their
tropical.
veg is like 14 hours of light. I think that's like a normal veg. Like that's probably like
Yeah.
close to some of the longest days of the year there would probably be
Hmm.
around 14 hours.
Right.
So my guess is that they'll veg for the month of August and start flowering in September.
There we go.
Yeah, that
Perfect.
that, that would be my guess. Um, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Um, have you grown any? I mean, it looks like you're growing a lot of like pretty big, longer flowering plants.
Yeah, my favorite, is the Panama Red and the Mexican. That's in the Durban poison. That's where my work is. I really work heavy with those three. I use the Panama Red male a lot more than the other two, the Durban and the Mexican males. But the Panama Red is just that male is just consistent, man. It's just It just everything attaches. It just makes it bigger, resistant to drought, resistant to wet spot, to to humidity. It just improve everything attaches. So yeah, I love the Panama Red. But also, I really love the Durban Poisters for the medical side. The one I have is only 8%, but man, it will lay you down.
I've heard that. I mean, are do you have the same male, or are you just looking through like different populations for the Panama Red?
Well, the Panama Male, I got the same one
Okay.
for the last 5 years, 6 years. It's been almost eight. Yeah. So, and I'm fixing to look for a new son and the F3s that I have, and let's see if we can replace it with a new son from that population.
Interesting.
Yeah, because what I do, I really like to back cross back into the male after I take it to F3s. I really go back into the same male if I still have it, just to solidify the gene pool, you know.
Interesting.
And then when I run out, I just do open population, just whatever I have, so whatever 40, 30 seeds or whatever, and it's just open pollinate everything, you know. And I just renew the seeds that way, and i- if I need to improve it, I improve it. If it, something need to be improved in the new cross, I do it. If it don't, I just consider the genetics how it is.
Do you
And I
ever find
usually I usually use the male because I don't try to use the females in the gene pool. I want to use that male because the gene pool is bigger, and I think there's been more dominance in the other gene pool. But not all the time, but and I'm not the male, so every time I use that male, I expect him to show up.
and so you do find that the male is a bit more dominant?
Yeah, yeah, and everything, and any Landrace, and any heirloom, and I also find out that the hemp side I just bring in like CBD side. What I mean CBD, because I work with CBD too. I made 2-to-1s and 1-to-1s, and uh, I work with a 14% CBD stack that I have. It's just straight CBD, and I use that male sometimes to make 1-to-1s to 2-to-1s. I just did a big old batch, which I put into the Toxic Red, my Mexican IBL, the Panama Red, uh, uh, AK-47, I think it was in there. The Oaxacan, I had a Oaxacan in there. So I used that 40% CBD male, and I pollinate everything.
Interesting.
So
And sorry, please.
now, what I find now that when you introduce the CBD male and the new generation, like when you try to make 2-to-1s, uh, it recombines the genetic pool. It really the selection is just crazy. You will have a hard time to select because it really opens up. Let's say like I'm gonna give you a sample so you can understand what I'm saying. Okay, let's say you have a 20% THC, right? And all these years we've been working to remove the CBD side, right? So just think about this. When you introduce the CBD as 40% CBD male into the new cross, now you have the really entourage or the full effect in a new generation. So the high is going to be even tense, even if it's 8%, 7%. You don't have to have a 20, 30% because now you have a full entourage effect between the CBD and the THC in a new generation. That's why the 2-to-1s and the 1-to-1s, they're so crucial for our homegrowers that really use medicine purposes. Those 1-to-1s is really got the full entourage effect of the 20% or 30% from the dispensary because there's no CBD in it. You only get half of the full spectrum of the full genetic potential. Now, by you making it 2-to-1s, 3-to-1s, you know, you really complete the full cycle, which is the full entourage, which is CBD percentage and THC percentage, you know. the how they mix and how you consume it is different than what you tend to accomplish. If you just smoke a straight the THC.
Interesting. So you're saying that like with these with these CBD added, it's just like a more well-rounded effect, and
Yeah,
not
yeah, exactly. Because you're missing the CBN, the CBG. You don't have that in its high THC. The matter you do if you go through the dispensary, but if you growing it, you know what you have. You know what I mean? But if you relying on somebody else just to say, hey, yes, this is that, without knowing, because that tests everything I have because I use it for my daughter too. That 14% is specifically for my daughter because she was diagnosed for hypertension. She's too energetic. So I was used to buy the bottle, like 8 ounces for $150 some. So what I did, I just searched for the highest CBD that I have and combined the CBG and CBN and what is the other one? THBA, I think it was, and tried to get closest as the doctor recommended. So I hunted my own CBD, my own cannabinoids, just to make closest I could to the medicine that we was buying. And that's
Hmm.
why I play with the CBD.
And
So
what lines do you have that have CBD in them?
the one I have is a Harlequin. Oh, which and the one that was the one I bought it was as known as hardly any because I don't got no THC in it. It's 40% CBD. So it comes from the family of the Harlequin,
Okay, interesting.
and
And so
that C-stack that was gifted to me, certified, that was a straight CBD for medical purpose.
interesting. And so you've smoked these, and you said that they almost have like a better effect than.
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. I mean, the highest. I mean, you can compare it because you're missing the other stuff. You're missing the CBD, especially if you smoke it. I smoke a lot. I mean, I smoke. My flower is the best way to consume it. I do aerosol too, and I do edibles, but I smoke a lot. I like to smoke. I mean, I will roll a lot because I like the way it made me feel. So, and when I found that's what the reason I messed up. I'm messing with the Mexicans in the Panama Red because I know what they have, and I grow up with those things. So there might be 7%, but it have the full spectrum in it. It still has some CBD in it. It's not purely selected for THC. I still keep it pure as it is since I got it in 2000. The Panama is from 76. The six the six that I have, the six stack that I have is from 76. But I didn't pop it into 2006. And only one come out of my six stack. Only one come out. And my uncle is the one find the mail. So that's the mail that we're using. So and the Mexicans, I got those since 2001. And I've been working those out into F4s now. So, and they're low in THC. The Mexican is 12% THC and probably 5% CBD.
Interesting. But
And
I mean,
yeah.
I've smoked Mexican in Mexico, and it definitely got me super high. I mean,
Yeah, the highest we test here when I grow it here, the same stack, the one I have is from Guanajuato. It's been growing down there from the same region for 25 years before I got it. So the people that give those seeds to me, the where we got it from, they had it for 25 years growing in the same soil, the same mounts, the same place until I got it and moved it to here. So then I did my own selection. I did an open pollination out of that, and I selected for the fastest and the better structure out of those seeds, and those become S4s now.
and how would you compare those to like these Pakistanis? A lot earlier flowering, or are they still like
Uh,
and wild?
no, the early flower. That's see a lot of people. Well, because I have indica now. See, let's go back a little bit into the Mexican history. The Mexican now after 98, we introduced the organic down there. So after 98, anything you have from Mexico has had that Gani in it.
Oh.
Before that, it was all sativa, habanero, which is the Spanish introduced to Mexico, which is the criolla. We call it criolla, which is the original Mexican sativa from Mexico before
So
it was
what is that
polluted.
word again? Croya?
Criolla,
Or
Criolla.
sorry, CIE GIO
Yeah,
Kyogia.
criolla. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's the original. And the other one, we had five different types in Mexico, which is the purple, which a lot of people call it morada, which is the purple kind. And then we had the Oaxacan, the punta, the red hairs. You know, a lot of a lot, a lot of people call it rubia. Because the pink hairs on it.
Is
And the
that
main,
different from Punta Roja?
yeah, pretty much. See, a lot of people get confused because pretty much Punta Roja, which is Panama red, is pretty much Oaxacan. It's
Okay.
just acclimated to Colombia. Okay. So back in the day, before the cartel started moving we and the switch to the white, it was the big interchange between Colombia and Mexico and genetics because Pablo smoked weed all the time. So it was a big interchange in genetics when that happened. And that's the reason Mexico quit doing it because they handed that to Colombia. And that's when you saw the explosion of Panama Red and Creepy coming from Colombia when that intersection went off. Because Mexico completely quit transporting wheat and Colombia take off. So it was a big interchange. So pretty much what it did, what I know, my grandparents told me that Oaxacan is Punta Roja acclimated in Colombia. So what we have before it was the criolla, which it was the original native to Mexico, which is then it was pollinated with the Spanish genetics, which we know it comes from Africa and Thailand, right? So a Mexican genetic got Thailand in it. It's got African genetics in it, which I mean I'm pretty sure it's Durban poison and so on and so on. Congo might be in it. And we know that the Chinese in it too, because the Chinese that were heavy transporting hash from Mexico back in the day. So we know it's the Chinese genetics on it too. But after 98, they introduced the Agani just because it was too racy, bro. The American people didn't like it. So, and remember, everything it was controlled by one people. And no matter where you grow it, and no matter if they tell you they come from Oaxaca, Michoacan, everybody, one person was controlling everything. And no matter who grew it, who had the genetics, it was just one people controlling the whole movement of the whole genetic pool. And they still are, they still are, but, so I know what we have in the Mexican genetics, and that's why the reason that keep it so hard to my heart because I know what they can do to people that really recognize what they can do, And I know a lot of people want to grow Mexican because the stigma they have, because it was pressed with seeds, it was no selection, it was just cut and go. It was like that's what you did. But now, that I have the time to see the plant really to full potential, bro. It's a beautiful plant. I mean, the people that tried it and seen it, I mean, they can believe it's really Mexican. But yeah, you let that thing grow and babysit it and treat it right. I mean, yeah, you will see the potential. So that's the reason I really attached to those all genetics because I know what they can be contribute to the gene pool, you know. And especially now that we can test everything, if we can, I mean, you should be able to test, especially it's for yourself, for your personal use, your medical purpose, that's what you use. You want to know what percentage you're using. You might be using too much THC. You might be using too much CBN. So just by running the percentage, so you don't have to test for everything. Just get the terpene profile and the CBD profile and the terpene profile. That will tell you a lot because you can see the gene pool And the terpene profile, how much you got that much this terpene, how much you got this terpene, how much, how much the gene pool between this terpene profile and that terpene profile. And really you can breed across that just to get what you want.
Interesting. Um, what would you say the differences are between like the Panama and Mexican?
Um, and the Panama is really resistant to everything, you know, when it comes to a really good plant and really good genetic pool for the foundation purposes, it's good. Medical purposes, not everybody want to use it because it's low in THC. It's probably like 10, 12, maybe 8, but you just have to smoke more. And another thing is the long cycle, you know. If you're gonna get a Panama Red, make sure it's worked out at least to F3 or 4, so you don't have to struggle if you grow on intense, because it'd be hard for you to grow intense. You really have to do some work. But between that and the Mexican, I think the Mexican is just got more medical benefits than anything else out there. If I'm being honest, I think the terpene profile is just it's not it's crazy. I must send you the results, and I must send you the so you can see the terpene profile demographic that I'm working with. Because now that went to the S4, there's some bubble gum coming up out of there. No,
Wow.
it's just, oh yeah, it's just crazy. So, and that's 17%. This one that I have that I've been working on is only 17% THC and like 3, 4% cannabinoids, you know. So, and I just work from there because I still got the F2s, the F3s, and I just, if I miss something, I just go back into the F2, you know, if I need to. But I think the Mexican side's got more medical benefits of the all
Interesting.
everything else up there. Because when you
Interesting.
when I did the test, it really amplifies which terpene profiles that really dominate. And when you mash those into the all cannabis that we have, into the all genetic pool, you see some of those recessive traits coming out and the new stuff.
That's very interesting.
Yeah,
Super interesting.
yeah, because I smoke all of them. I smoke the Thailand, I smoke. I love land races most of all. And what I do, I work with heirloom and land races. I pretty much know land race and heirloom, but I like to work with the heirlooms because I don't know what I'm gonna find, and I like to see how do they perform in my environment. And I like to see the new stuff coming up. I love looking for that male that really stands out. You know, and that's what I do. And I like to preserve stuff. I like to preserve stuff. I like to, I do a lot of work for the community, man. I do synchros for anybody, they really trust me. Yeah, man. I really, really love heirlooms, man. And that's what it's at, man. And I've been saying that for a long time. We need to go back to the grandparents.
J-
We need to go back to the grandparents
Jamal, we're getting
because
some wild feedback when I just muted you. Sorry.
yeah, that's what I've been saying, that we need to go back to the grandparents because we bottlenecking everything. Everything out there is either C or runs or gelato. I mean, I don't get me wrong, they got the time, they got the place, but let's use it for the purpose. But also let's stay open to the new stuff, and don't forget the grandparents, Hindu Kush, Acapulco Gold, really what they make up the really foundation for what we have, you know.
So
Remember, Mexican genetic is on everything. Just because, yeah, it was seeded and it's got a bad name, it's got a bad reputation, you know. But it's better genetics now out there. Give it a try and you'll be surprised.
do you notice a similarity between Mexican and Hawaiian genetics?
Oh yeah, I've been saying that for a long time, my G. But it's just like opinions out there, and I'm just gonna tell you what I know. My parents, they're from Mexico. So I know the history. You know what I mean? So I don't know if you know this, but back in the day, you know how Hawaii got cattle. You know how cattle got introduced to Hawaii. Well, Mexico got a lot to do with that. Okay, it's a big old trade they did into Mexican and the what did they call it? I don't know. They don't call it king over there. What do they call the guys over there in charge of the whole islands? A chief or whatever. So it was a big intersection between animals and cattle in the 40s with Hawaii. So they didn't know how to domesticate the cattle. So Mexicans come into Hawaii and they're all vaqueros. So they all smoke weed. So that weed got introduced to Hawaii, you know, and then it got polluted with the rest of it. But it's Mexican genetics up there too, heavily from the beginning, you know. I don't know how far, but that's what I know. That we did a big interchange too with the closest island, even Cuba. Cuba got Mexican genetics a lot and Colombian genetics, So all those islands around us, they pretty much intersect and connect, you know, into those sea uh, routes. They're all the same genetics, but just cultivated in the same in different areas, different acclimated to different spots. And that's why I think you see a lot of the recesses when you grow some of the Colombian and especially Colombia, the Panama red, the Colombian gold. You can really see the recesses in some of the new stuff that we have. And
Int-
especially the super silver haze. The super silver haze is a good representation in the Panama red growing in the tropicals when I see it.
I mean, that was really interesting what you're saying because like definitely like in the Honolulu, I've seen
I
some
see the
things that
Oaxacan on it, to be honest.
yeah, and like I've seen like some Colombian stuff in there, like a few like Colombian outliers, and I've seen definitely like every once in a while an Afghani in there, every once in a while, and yeah, like when you were talking about how there's a lot of Mexicans that went to Hawaii. First thing is I was like, oh, like I
Yeah.
wonder if the Honolulu is just kind of like selections that somebody in Hawaii would make of these Mexican lines.
Right. So as you see, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the koala electric from Hawaii. I think it's the koala electric from Hawaii.
Kauai Electric?
Yeah, well, when you see that plant grow and you put it beside a Hawaiian, the purple pheno, when you get the purple pheno from the Hawaii, because it's the Oaxacan, because it's a green pheno too, and it's a yellow pheno too out of it. But when you compare it right beside together, you can see the similarities in the structure. I don't know if the terpene profile was the same, but I'm pretty sure that in some phenos it will be. You will find that similar relationship between parent and grandson. You know what I mean?
Cool. Hey, Kevin, welcome.
Hey, what's going on,
What
brother?
up,
Hey, I was
Kev?
I was just going to chime in, man. I would agree with that because I lived in Hawaii in the '80s, early '80s, and it's what I've noticed in cannabis in general is that all Mexican genetics get basically fucking diminished. That people act like it had no impact on the on the world we're in,
Right.
and it's where you had the access to the most stock that was reasonably fast finishing and productive, and so. No, it's funny because I just heard that, but yeah, I worked on all the islands, and so I got to mess around on every island when I was there, and the Kauai Electric. Um, but I just would say that there's no indigenous Hawaiian genetics, and we would say Southeast Asian, and some of the stuff I saw would be reminiscent of like Vietnamese, Cambodian, Laotian stuff, but a lot of it fit way more into what I would say Mexican characteristics. It's just that in that fertile soil and that perfect air,
Oh
you
yeah,
know, unbelievably clean water, the plants just thrived.
it's beautiful genetics up there, man. I got some Hawaiian sativa from over there from one of my buddies, and man, that stuff is just it's the way it grows, the way it looks, and they're
It's
freaking like
unreal. I think Hawaii has an ability to produce probably some of the best outdoor cannabis on earth.
there we go.
And that's really the crazy part about it was when legalization was kicking in. I got brought in to work with someone on an outdoor project, and then legalization said no, it'll all be indoor. And we looked at each other like, how fucked up can it get when you're in one of the best mountain
Right at
regions
the
on
end of
planet
it.
Earth and you forbid outdoor cultivation? And that's an infrastructure barrier to prevent regular people from participating.
Right.
Kevin, I had a question for you regarding the Pakistani lines.
Yeah.
So like most plants would do like this kind of growth, right? Where it's like I don't know where it's like the nodes, you know, there's a pair of them, right,
Mm-hmm.
going down the plant. But I've noticed that with these Pakistanis, it's like they alternate, but it's not just one side. It's like three. It's like 1, 2, 3 sides, and it kind of like spirals with the nodes coming off.
Totally. I want to say that's like world phyllotaxy is like the definition of that. But yeah, the thing with the genes from that area, which was just so interesting to me, is because I thought that when I took a look at the populations, you would see these very segregated, isolated populations that would be very specific. And it's not at all. There's such a movement of the plant material, and there's so much sharing of plant material, and they go through and rogue out all the unwanted males, and so they choose the males that they want most, and they allow those to populate. But it's always a matrix of traits, so that what you have is the greatest diversity for survivability, which is their primary concern, because unlike us where we need sameness, they need the crop to live. And because we're obsessed with singular profile, they're not. Their whole crop. So their approach was really different, and I loved it, because what you saw was a very different relationship between the farmers and each other compared to like how we operate. Like, you know, for us in the States, it was basically hoarding, where whoever had the right plant, had all the power, had all the money, had all the control, and had all the rank. And then they lose the damn thing, and it's part of history. Whereas for the groups there, they were extremely sharing in every aspect of their life. So and you can see it in the way, if we look at all these different collections that occur from all these different groups around the world that collect material, they always show the plant that they collected it from, because they chose a plant, which is what I did. I just said, okay, I have no idea what the male looked like. I could see the skeleton of the male, but had already dumped all its sacs, right? So I saw skeletons of males, but I didn't see the male in its glory. So I had really no idea. And the males only populate a specific region around it in terms of, you know, distribution. So what you have is just selections from people who are basically choosing the male and allowing all female. And then the male, the plants that they like the most, they just throw 2 or 3 handfuls of that seed into the bag in addition to the crop it seed. So they never monocrop in any capacity. They never even steer towards a propensity for a single direction. It's just more. And I think that if we went through enough of the plants, you'd see some interesting patterns emerge. And if we had, more money to go look at genotyping and start to track it out, you'd be able to better find, what some of the population components and where the separations lie. But yeah, the all survivability. It's every single field, every single farmer, same deal. Unbelievable diversity, and you got to see traits that were in common from clusters around males and the impact of aroma from what it was next to. So the stuff that was next to the fruit trees, different, it because of the plants bioaccumulating, picking up, matching to match. Potato farm, different aroma. The cherry, different aroma. The other stone fruit, different aroma. But it was not so much that these plants had that, it's that they produced it, because you could see the similarities in the clusters, right? So like it was fascinating. I'd never seen it. I've never seen an integrated approach to cultivation like that. So it makes it tough, because I have no idea what the male look like, and they're not line breeding at all. It's a scatterbred, but it's selected from male. So there's a selection pressure, unlike India, which is more, all male, all female. Pakistanis, Afghanis, they segregate by male only, go through, cull the males they don't like, leave the ones they do. And then what we do is go through and find the outliers. But some of them have like that weird 3-stalk, some of them alternate. And typically, like from seed, when you go from opposing branches to where they're the same versus alternate, we say that it's at a maturity level. And I got into conversation with a guy the other day about cutting clones, and he was like, you got to take it at that level. And the thing is that most of the clone work we work off of is really off a clone, and clones automatically stack, right? So the minute you root the fucking thing, it's stacking. So from that point forward, it's viable and mature. But the conversation was off of that alternating component about maturity. Which ones were you playing with, Jamal? What was your selection?
That was the 7D, which is the leaky septic one.
Yep. Well, that was disgusting smelling in real life.
Oh damn!
It was like that's what I put. Leaking septic tank. It was just foul, like putrid.
Yeah, that's the one that I'm growing out this year. I have like 7 of them.
Nice. I would love to see one of those like tapped into a good fuel, like go chem line into it, something that's gonna kind of accentuate and work with it, so it intensifies those effects.
That's already where I'm at. I have a Chem D, and I think like a day record diesel that I'm gonna mash up with that one.
Oh, the day wrecker breeds really good, man. My friend Andrew, he did a day wrecker. I sent him the LAPK cut years ago, and he reversed the LAPK and then went into the day wrecker. And oh my God, I just ran through a huge population of them myself, just so I can find a couple outliers that I wanted to be able to start to roll together to stabilize that direction, right? And the day wrecker cut, that original Weasel Diesel, it absolutely breeds beautifully.
Oh, that's on fire.
It's a killer. Once I'm momming them up. So like I did the selections, did the cuts. I'll get you a copy of. It's nice. The LAPK dominated flavor profile. It just did. It took over 90% of the aroma in almost all the selections. But the LAPK has got a phenomenal aroma. And the problem with the LAPK here is it's PM prone, and because it was really like indoor selection, and you got to remember that in the eras of selection 20 years ago, Eagle 20 was part of the toolbox. Right. So like whenever we look at all these plants, we're like, these were prone. Well, they weren't prone when you were spraying them. So the problem is that when we go into the current world of we know not to use any of these things, you got to go through a huge selection. So for me, I was able to isolate the plants that had the almost 0 PM pressure, which had the diesel trait, but had that PK aroma and mouth. And I pulled 3 of them that were they're almost like triplets, they're so similar, but stunning. It's nice. Yeah. Cause I'm going to use that in another breeding project. I wanted that as a baseline that I wanted to throw some of that acrid gas from an OG into it, just to bring out some more subtle nuance.
Jeez.
Interesting. Do you ever
And-
find that the PK can like go over kind of easily, like it can get over ripened easily? That's kind of what I've observed with it.
Yeah, well, the LAPK is when you genotype it, it's almost directly it's right there with Bubba. So to me, I believe that Bubba was the parent, and most likely it was an S1 of Bubba. And so someone opened it up, and there's always these discussions of, you know, what cut, and someone said, well, it's the Suge Knight cut. And I don't know Suge Knight, right? So, but I know that when I look at the photos of Suge's pictures, they're purple. There's always color in it, right? There's never been a drop of color in LAPK in the 25 years I've ran it. I don't give a shit, indoor, outdoor, cold, like, it doesn't make a difference. It stays green. But you can take them past their prime, and it loses the subtlety, right? Because it's not a long flowering plant. You know, we're talking, you know, 60 days, 56 to 61 is that window. Where diesel goes, you can go a lot further with it. You can go into 77, 81 in those windows if you really want to see it mature and drive that direction. So it's trying to work with it, but it's the LAPK has always had a propensity for bud rot and a propensity for powdery mildew. And so depending on the season here, it's not a good risk, right? So if we get like early rain at the end of September and some couple foggy days, oh, you're losing all the tops on all of them. And so I did the work in depth for this project, and I didn't use any kind of control mechanisms at all. So like when I do like sifting projects, they're very different than production, because what I want to see is natural tendencies. Which ones have the best control? Which ones are most resistant? What has the best resistance to these pathogens that are present where I live? And that way, what it does, it helps me find plants that have natural abilities to do well. Because at the end of the day, some of the best herb you ever smoked requires so much effort to grow. It just makes it it becomes a backwards process. You're working too hard to get what you want. And if it's for like competitions, or you're trying to like just wow somebody with something amazing, then one-off shit works. But if you're talking about a field, it has to work. And so that automatically culls out a lot of stuff. But I was able to get really good combinations between the diesel, which seems to have a really good resistance, and a much more upright morphology, and a longer extension between the internodes, so you get better spacing and airflow, and you don't get that same internal leafiness that you get off of the PK, right? The PK jams up inside, so you got to leaf it to get airflow through it. And so it requires, like, so for, if you're, and ideally you would just shoot PKs short and have, you know, little small plants that never really gut immense inside. And that would be the best way to produce it, in my opinion. It's just not, and it's never been a heavy yielder. It's, you know, we had a guy we used to mess with out of Butte County. So for people who aren't in California, Butte County's basically just east of Humboldt, but it's unbelievably dry and hot, and phenomenal climate for growing herb that has mold sensitivities. And this guy, prior to legalization wiped him out too. But he had this amazing terraced mountainside he had done, and he had 10 by 10 beds that he had created for each plant. And so he and I were messing around for years. But what he was able to do is he was able to give me absolute yield measurements, where all the different plants I provided him, when he plugged them into his system, he had no restriction on environment, no restriction on root size. So what it did is it let me say, okay, when we ran this Blue Dream, you know, he was pushing 14, 15 pounds out of it. And so it allowed me to say, okay, Blue Dream in this configuration does this. But PK in his operation never achieved more than 3 pounds ever. But he loved it as a smoke. And because the climate was just ideal for it, like desert, it shined. So, you know, I would actually score PK from him, because I think his PK was better than the PK we grew here. So I would get it from him for smoke, but it just let me see that it was, 1/4 the yield of anything else that he touched. But for him, the quality of the product was so good that it was worth growing a couple of them just because it was such a kick-ass smoke.
Wow.
I'll get you a copy, Jamal. I'll pull out when I get these things done. I'll get you a copy, and then you can take one of those that I selected, and you can run some of your Pakistani pollen into it and see what it does.
Oh,
Okay.
Because you got the day, you're already messing with the day record, right? So it's the same exact plant, and it'll allow you to be able to see and the subtleties in the LAPK aroma and flavor is phenomenal. So like Diesel's Diesel, and I love the mouth, but damn, does PK have a good mouth? Just it's that coffee, chocolate, leather, like it's just, and it's nuanced. It's balanced. It lays in the mouth for a long time. The high was cracking.
Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, I stopped growing the PK because I would get heat waves right when it was ready. And it would just kind of like get overbaked essentially and just kind of be like overdone. And my garage was like super hot. And it just kind of was like, it didn't time properly for finishing in the Bay Area, I guess and it had tons of powdered mildew. But I think with a little bit of diesel in there, just like maybe a week or two, a little bit longer, I think it could be perfect.
Yeah, it's just I would say that's the thing, is that a lot of these big broadleafs, they're really pretty fragile. We kind of say that narrow leaves are fragile, but they're fragile because we overfeed them, right? So their fertility needs are far less, and they're in terms of what, like basically nitrogen. So we always end up bending them up because we go too heavy with that direction. But in terms of like ability to deal with issues, they're phenomenal. They can handle heat that's beyond comprehension. They can handle humidity beyond comprehension. I mean, they're tutorials. But the broadleafs, they really work in some very specific situations, and all of them, when they finish, is cold. That crisp coolness of the mountains of Afghanistan, Pakistan, parts of Iran, unbelievable. Like you can feel that heat during the daytime, but as soon as that night drops, it's cold, and then you go another 2 weeks and you got snow coming in and it's friggin' freezing. So they're acclimated to that environment, and they do far better. So it depends. Like some years in Humboldt, I've had good success with them outside. Other years, terrible. So it's primarily, to me, an indoor variety, and you got to keep the ventilation right. You got to keep your VPD right. You have to make sure you don't overfeed them, because if you push them too hard, they get far too vegetatively leafy, and then they're a sugar factory, which is a pathogen buffet.
Right.
So there's a trick to running it, and I would almost say like real Bubba is a little easier to grow, because I ran them. I've never put them together in the same room, but ran them in different operations. And I would say that Bubba's a little more resistant, a little more resilient. But I think for me personally, and it's not to say that it's better, but I prefer the smoke of the LAPK more than I prefer Bubba. I think Bubba's got it's kind of like, Bubba reminds me of like GMO, where you get that, right? So they're not the same profile, but that Chem D bites, it's that. And I love Chem D too, but it's more that there's more layers in the LAPK than there's layers in the Bubba. And if you like those particular layers, then you just love the plant. And for me, when I smoked it the first time, shit, it had been 25 years ago, right? I've had it that long. And what I did is I didn't even have a copy of it. I just shared it out to all my friends, and it allowed it to go spread out. And then my partner did a big S1 on it. So I'll go through like an S1 population of that next season, and I'll go look at a couple hundred of those and see if I can find some outliers within it that have a little better resistance, maybe a little less leafy. Because I've never seen it opened up into a bigger population as a self unit.
And would you hunt those as seeds or clones?
Oh, I hunt them as seed. I just run them as seed, and that'll let me get an idea of what I'm looking at. And then from there, I'll run the clone again. But the first step is always basically with seed population is run it outside, and I run it in depth because it lets me just have control of the cycle.
Right.
And what I'll be able to do is go through that whole thing and then tag and then identify the outliers and then do the consumption test, and then it narrows it down. So I think I did, I don't know, maybe 120, 150 of the LAPK to those diesels. And I kept chopping it down till finally I was able to get down to 3 that had the best matrix of all qualities. The next step then is to run it indoor under LED lighting. And LED lighting, which I have no issues with LEDs. I don't look at it the same way. I look at it that we used to grow outdoor, and then we went into lights, and everyone had to reselect plants that worked under lights. And at that time, it was metal halide. Then we go into HPS, and we had to reselect for HPS. And now we have to reselect for lead. But with lead and the ability to have tuned spectrum and steering of it, and the understanding of how to use far red in blinks to create hormonal triggers, how to use under canopy to even out the distribution of quality top and bottoms, because it's light exposure that changes the morphology, maintains normal coloration. All of that is a stressor, and then it'll let me say, okay, how do we do from here? And sometimes, like I said, I'll go through this whole process and then pick nothing, right? Sometimes it just doesn't work, where you go, okay, this doesn't work for indoor at all. It just does not like LED. It's meant for outdoor only. And then next year, I'll take the plants that I made the selection on, and I'll run those full term, so I can see what does it do in a full term environment. And that way, it's really like, it almost takes you 2 years. It takes you the first year to hunt through, do the selection, find the work, and then the next year you're able to do optimization testing to find out, okay, with the things that I think would make a difference, what happens. And that's why, you got to be into the stuff you're into, because you have to look down the road. It's if you're trying to just hit trendy shit, it's really, you're just finding hot cuts and selfing them and pushing them. And I'm not against that either, because some of those trendy cuts that get selfed and pushed create some incredible things. It's just that what I'm really seeking is stuff that I can have a good day, sweetheart. What I'm looking for is stuff that I'm going to be happy with personally. Like, is it something that I like? And that's a process. And then if you can go through the sifting and find what works in all the directions, then you have something that's pretty stable, and it can become like a cornerstone of your consumption bank. So I want to have a bunch of things that I like, but I don't want to bank all these plants at my house anymore. I don't. I try to keep the banking at home to a minimum. I try to use the TC bank to hold it. Yeah. But the issue with TC banking is that you are creating all things create mutation, all things create change, all stress has an impact. There is no fucking magic trick to keep anything constant for 40 years. Like, that shit it's the same as it's been for 40 years. And I'm like, I fucking doubt it. You're not the same. So how is the plant you held the same? You same exact food, same exact light, same exact, like, not a single variable changed at once in 40 fucking years. So there's always this change. And so ideally, once I get to a point with something that I like, if I can create it into some seed form, that I can put away and say that reflects 2026. But the clone, I know, moves, and I stopped being so obsessed about finding the things from the past, because I realized that they're not here anymore because of epigenetic change and your cloning process, whatever you do. So the only way to really make preservation is to do seed, and then the seed has to be properly dried. Then you have to put it with Oxy and Desipack, and you got to keep it cool, because anytime the moisture fluctuates in any capacity, it activates the enzymes, which starts to consume the sugar that's held in the embryo. And that's where you get, no ability to germinate. So like, and I love the idea of embryo rescue, but I'm always like, fucking come on. Like, that's a lot of time and money to go save a seed. You are saving something, but just because you save something doesn't mean it was something good. I go through a lot of old populations that were hot. And I had this discussion with someone the other day, and I was like, you got to remember that when herb was good back in the day, it was phenomenal because the vast majority of pot coming into the country, and I'm somebody that saw it coming in bulk as a kid, and then been involved in the hustle my whole life. So I'm not somebody who bought bags of pot off of people, right? I was always dealing with cats that were moving weight, which just means that I got to see, I think, bigger, better selections, right? And it was a lot of pretty good. And then every now and then there was exceptional. And right now you have far better quality across the board because you have the internet. So every home grower has a pretty nice little operation going. The access to genetics is incredible. When's the last time you could fucking go online and get a clone for $100 that was exceptional? Back in the day, they were 10 grand. And at that time, if we factor in inflation, it's more like 50 grand. So people were paying 50K in today's money for cuts 25, 30 years ago, because that cut would have fucking made you a fortune and it was hyper rare. That's not the norm now. It's very different. And so a lot of times I know that the plants that we had then were unbelievable, but I also remember that you're used to smoking average shit. It's like with all things. You used to drive in a Honda, and then you hop into a fucking Lamborghini. You're just like, wow, it's not, you can't even believe it's a car. And so that's the issue, I think, with our memories of times past. And it starts to allow you as you age to not trip so hard on what once was, and you work on what is right now, and you try to find populations to steer towards your memory. But to find the cut, I've had too many plants and too many things from times past that when we produced them, I'm like, wow, this would have been incredible back then, but today it's average. And yes, there's little subtleties and shit, but it's average. That's the issue, is that we romanticized it because it really was that much better then. You know, it's like being a superstar when you're in 11th grade. You're the greatest motherfucker on earth in 11th grade because you matured early. You were a 17-year-old and all the other kids were 16. So you were a man among boys. Well, by the time you get to 24, you're all the same now. And now you're average. And that's like sports scouting, right? Like when you're scouting athletes, half the athletes in the pros are early prodigies. The other half are late bloomers because no one gives a shit what you did when you were 12 when you're on a pro team. They care what you're doing today. And that, I think, is really the analogy for cannabis, is that we just have to say, okay, what do we have today? And what's the production methodologies we're going to use? And what works under those methodologies so that you're able to actually function. I don't want to go back to HPS lighting. And I still have a couple. I still hold a couple. I got them put away on a shelf, and I got all the shit put away. But how the fuck can you complain about running an LED at 32%? So you're functionally running at around 250 watts and getting the same functional development as 1,000 watts without any kind of temperature control, right? Like it's there. The technology is amazing. We just have to constantly go through populations and find the plants that respond under that stimuli, and then learn how to make it work. So that, that's what's so neat about the Pakistani work, is that it's not stabilized at all. So, people are like, well, give me all the traits that I'm going to see coming out of it. I'm like, how the fuck would I know? I never saw the male. We're talking fields of thousands and thousands and thousands, and field after field after field after field after field after field. I said, I'm just looking for outliers. Plants that had unbelievably interesting impact to me. And hopefully some of those impacts remain in that plant that you've opened up. And if not, you just got to open up the population a little more and see if that trait is held within the female, or was it only within that plant that we've seen.
Right. Right.
Interesting. Have you had a chance to flower out a bunch of Pakistanis and look to see what's in them?
I did. I ran through a bunch of them when I got back from Pakistan. I ran through a ton of stuff, and it was and remember too, like sexual stability is something that they're not as concerned about because you're not worrying about any of the seeds. Everything's got some seed to it, and they're just beating it out. But they want the seed. That's the part
Right.
that we don't understand. Like for Mexico, they're really the ones that pioneered seedless. They're the ones that pioneered seedless. Rafi fucking pioneered that shit. Like, I mean,
Crazy.
he figured out an old man told him, and then he had his team rigorously rogue out any male. So the first real seedless coming into the U.S. was really coming in from Mexico, and because Mexicans aren't using the seed as a food source because they're in Mexico. They got ungodly climate, shitloads of water. They're agriculturally fucking gifted in all aspects, right?
Tropical.
But you get up into the Himalayas, the Karakoram and Hindu Kush Mountains, if you don't have that seed put away for winter, you have no omegas to eat. You're going to have skeletal fucking issues. Like it's a protein source. It's why the seed moved across the world. It wasn't because they were so interested in the dope. It was because they wanted the food, and it was the seed they ate and shit out on the ground that didn't break down that was disseminated just like birds, right?
Wow.
They drop
Right.
the seed out and it lands in a little package of poop and pee. So it's already got fertilizer when it lands, coating it, right? So it's already got a bacterial coating to give it what it needs when it cracks. So,
Wow.
yeah, no, it made me feel like I always say this too. In my mind, I'm a cannabis idiot. Like I spent my whole life in it. So I spent so much time in it that I know I don't know a fucking thing. And so much of it is because we never got a chance to understand the lifetime of cannabis usage because of the drug war. Right. So I'm somebody that was born in 1966. That's when Nixon put that first letter out. 1980 is when Reagan comes in. I'm 14. 3 years later, 16, I'm already a multi-time felon from cultivation because the drug war kicked in fully. And then I spend my whole life in the drug war. And now we're into legalization. But all my education and knowledge is from trafficking and hustling and illegal shit. Right. And so then I was involved in all kinds of medical stuff. See, all this, like through the course of my career, I got all this exposure. But each time I got exposed, it made me understand how fucking little I really understood about the application and big picture of cannabis as a companion plant to human beings. You know what I mean? Like I was like, wow, we don't have a fucking clue because the drug war stripped all that knowledge. Because if people understood the real usage and value of it, it would have been very hard to demonize it. But the demonization was possible because we paint it. It's the same thing with fucking ICE and shit right now, right? They're saying all these immigrants are where the crime's coming from. But if you take a fucking look, it's clearly the crime's coming from us, the U.S. citizens. And I'm like, but they do such a good job painting the picture that it gets people to have a knee-jerk response and say, yes, it's okay to yank fucking families apart. It's good to pull the guy off the roof because he didn't do what he was supposed to do. And it's a demonization for an agenda. And to me, the drug war was a map that they created that you can follow over and over again, that if you make it this and you do that, you'll get people to believe. And it's even worse today because people only go about 9 to 10 seconds into education. We've become addicted to these little fucking sound bites. And that's as far as you dig. So if you hear a little sound bite, it clips. So we didn't understand that cannabis primarily was a fucking food source before it was ever an intoxicant. The intoxication component came later, but a long way later. But the food source was clear because the humans would have seen animals eating it, and then they would have tried it and said, "Well, this is really a healthy food source, great proteins, great omegas." So that desire to create seed and the diversity of seed is the primary purpose. The hash came later, and now you're selling it because the economies in all these countries are so destroyed that without the hash sales, none of the families have the funding to send their kids to school. So they don't sell the hash like we use it as income. They use it as a subsidy to subsidize their children so they can get schooling, because all the other stuff they do, they're fucking farmers. They have the potatoes put away, they're masters of preservation. So when you look at it from that perspective, seeded herb to them is the point. We're the ones that are obsessed with it, and that's where it comes in. So what you have is you have to do some on some of those populations. I want to say like the 4Cs. Some of the 4s were unfucking believable aroma wise.
Wow.
But when I went through heavy intersex traits, and that's just something that I cull as much as I can continuously, just because for what we do, any of that pops out, it just causes issues, and people lose their mind if there's a seed in something. And they don't really understand that the bottom line is herb was meant for seed. And that was where you started to select like bigger bract plants, so you get bigger seeds.
Right.
Right? Because it's small, you just a larger seed holding more of that germplasm inside, but for food.
Right. Bigger steam, more embryo.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
If you look at like what I got to see was, and I got to see it in Colombia too. I got to meet some old school Colombians, and I got to see work that they had done, but they were far more drug focused, because same thing. Colombia's Colombia. You have plenty of water. You have plenty of ability to grow food. You're not as concerned about creating a food source when it's so abundant. But you go out into the wilds of the Curacura Mountains and you can see native and, just wild cannabis that's been there forever. And it reminded me of when I took a look, when I was studying corn, the original corn species, the corn was tiny, right? So when you look at like wild cannabis, there's almost no real, cola formation, but it's massive bracts and really heavy resin around the bract for protection because of that climate, right? But I was laughing because I said, "Holy shit!" It reminds you of the pearls, right? So whenever we see those pearl type phenos with a string of pearls, I saw a ton of that shit in Pakistan that was wild.
Oh, that's crazy.
It was crazy, right? And
yeah.
And a lot of it is just that, when you're trying to get the seed back, you have to have it. You can't carry anything back, especially nowadays. Fuck, they're going through your phone when you get into the US now. So, and I get searched all the time. Like there's no coincidence to this shit. I'm always pulled the fuck out and search. And you got a bunch of young dudes giving you a lecture on your life choices and shit. And I'm laughing, and I'm just like, this is fucking like a cartoon. But I'd never bring any drugs with me across international borders. Ever. I don't try to bring a fucking thing with me. I don't leave with anything, and I don't come back with anything. And I make sure I go through every fucking bit of all my stuff prior to leaving and re-entering. So this way there's not a chance there's a problem, because I don't want to get taught a lesson by a bunch of overzealous young dudes who want to give you a life lecture on be a miserable prick. And this is the way to happiness. So it's hard to bring things back and forth the way you do. And I know how the products are moved, internationally, but I would love to be able to go back and not go and do a commercial crop search, but just do wild search and only hunt the wild population. Spend my time just in all the ditchweed, all the wild populations, go through all those and look for the outliers within those populations, and then work with that direction. I mean, if I could, and I will, I'll go back. It's hard to take off at that window. I can't say enough about the guys in Pakistan, the team. They couldn't be a cooler bunch of guys, like lovely people. But it's unfortunate, but that the window is in September time. So it makes it difficult to do what I do and leave for a couple weeks, a month, at that window.
Right.
And so if I could set it up for next year, I'd love to go back. And then what I would do is I would really say, like, let me just walk these ridges and look for the wild populations and find some interesting shit there, because the survivability genes in those, without question, would be unbelievably
Right.
strong. And then impart that into another line here, like the LAPK, so that what we get is a better resistance, better survivability, less vegetative material, because they never had the humus to create the sinks to create that amount of vegetative leaf, right? Without the fertility, because all the plants that the farmers are growing, they don't have high humus, but they're definitely using animal waste, right? So they're using the deposition, so the fields are able to sustain healthy growth. I want to go back and find plants that are living in fucking sand.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that would be really and
Yeah,
now we have better tools and we have better genomics, so we can go look into, we understand better what traits are on a chromosome, and we're able to take a look at plants and start to identify, what are we looking at, where the trait's located, can we impart that trait into another plant, and can we measure that trait through like leaf punch, so that we're able to look at populations and size, but find the outliers that hold those traits, which is what you use for all commoditized crops.
There we go.
And that's really that's what's going to change cannabis to me in terms of breeding, is that you'll start to be able to identify. So like if we figured out what made that rotten sulfur, like what gene is in control of that, and then what is required to make it express fully, was it its location? So like when I did the listings, I listed like what did I find it around, what was around it, and I brought a couple soil samples back. I had those shipped in, and it was just high calcium, high mineral soil. There was nothing that was unusually, exceptional about it. The part that got me was very low fertility. But I after spending time with Elaine Ingham, and she said, that there's no soil on Earth that if you bind it together with compost tea and then cover it so that you can grow some microbials, which just means mulch, there's no soil you can't grow in. So some soils by far are better indexes that give you a much higher fertility level, greater potential. But she was clear. She said, there's nothing on Earth that plants can't grow in. And it just let me really understand like the adaptability of the plant as this complicated living organism that can make it happen. And the idea for me always was, I was always wanting plants that could do better with less. Because what we have right now is, let's push it to a 9 EC in the block. So 3.0 in the fucking mix, 9 in the block. This is this. We got to give it fucking 2,400 ppfd. What if it could give you the results with far less? That's just less input. And that was like my fascination with the Landrace stock. Wasn't so much that I was going to find some secret mix of aroma or flavor, but that I would be able to find the survivability and the efficiency, so that I had, and when I did all that Afghani work, so that's where I took it deep in the Afghan side. It was all about the water conservation, because we were going through this crazy drought in like 2018, 2019, 2020. California was 21. Those 4 years were the peak of that 30-year drought cycle. And I didn't know how long that cycle was going to continue. And I'm just like, look, if this is our new California, what we need is plants that have an ability to work with far less water. So I went on this chase, and then the water comes back. But the point is, it let me say, all right, what happens when I do this? Because when you put those plants in a pot, their consumption was so much less than the plants next to it. It was amazing. And their ability to work with far less nutrient was amazing. And to me, those are the traits you really want to impart in our modern cannabis, is survivability, so that you're not having to buffer them so much. But we're obsessed with what we're obsessed with, and the technology companies are doing some amazing work. But at the end of the day, if I have to run more and more and more and more and more, that's a cost.
Yeah, I mean, those are definitely the traits that I've been observing in those packy plants that, less fertilizer needs, stronger root zones,
Mm-hmm.
just less inputs in general, less staking up, just like a more wild type of plant.
Yeah, but like bamboo, what tripped me out was when I was grabbing plants. Have you ever touched a shark?
The
Right, like,
skin,
because
yeah.
it's got like a
It's got
a
that.
unidirectional texture. So the way the shark moves through the water, it's smooth. But if you go backwards, that shit bites your hand. And when I was working in Micronesia, the natives would use shark skin as sandpaper. So they would, catch shark, eat the shark, and then they'd skin it. But they would take the skin and then they would put it on these little boards and they would use it as sandpaper to do all their carvings. They would use it to polish the carving. So it was shark skin was sandpaper to them. And when you ran your hand across it fast, it would pull this like the tissue off your fingers, And that's what the Pakistani stock, everywhere we went, when you grabbed it, I was like, whoa, you couldn't rip the branch off easily. And when you pulled on it hard, if you let it move through your fingers, man, it chewed a hole in your palm.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, it had a really different epidural layer, just so much more resilient and resistant and woody, just woody. No support needed, just better plants for the purpose. And we're obsessed because for me, I don't like netting, right? I don't like netting because up on the hill, animals get caught in it. And I don't like all the plastic, right? I'm trying to you're trying to be more sustainable in life. Running 10,000 fucking foot of net every year that you're having to peel off, roll up, and then do what with. To me, it's just and so then you can go like the jute netting and shit, but that's a mess because it gets into the bud and it gets wet and it rots. So for me, I want plants that have natural stability. And the way the secondary and tertiary branching comes off, they're connected into a way that even under heavy load, it just bends. It doesn't peel off of the main leader. And that's what I saw there. So like, it's just a matter of when you're working with stock, you can only do so many projects at one time. And so what I do is I take it as deep as I want to, and then I take a break from it, but I've made seed. Then I can go back into it and then dive back in. So this way I let my hyperactivity not drive me nuts. I can smash on shit really, really intensely until I reach a point of satisfaction. And then I can pause and shift to something else. And then I can come back to that base population. And that's really what I want to do with some of the lines that I got to work with, where I opened them up, sifted out the intersex, took the outlier males and females, repollinated, and then just held those seeds. And I'll get to go in those. But you know how it is in cannabis, man. You got a million friends that have a million cool things going on, and you're meeting people all the time, and you're seeing really interesting shit. And so that's why I say I'm not really like, I understand the process of breeding, but I don't consider myself a breeder because I don't stay on the line. Like I have some F4s, F5s. I'll go into an F6 this year on some work that I did. But primarily I work it till I get to a point and then I can jump to the next thing because of the way my mind works, right? And so like I just accepted the fact that I'm a fucking loose cannon, and it's selection that I love most. But the ability to be able to make the base selections and then put it away in seed and jar it, deci-pack it, throw in some oxy-packs and throw it in the fucking fridge, then I can go back in and work that direction. Because there's one of the, I don't know the number, but there was a line that I loved, but it's just a matter of its personal desire more than commercial application. And for a lot of the stuff that I work now, it's really more commercial application in terms of it can be used in modern production. and that lets me put the clones into people's operations. It's the business we're in. So it's hard to balance the business with your personal shit. And I'm a nut, so I'll go deep into my personal shit, but then I'm like, fuck, I'm neglecting the business. You know what I mean? It's the dilemma of being a weed freak.
Yeah, you has to.
For sure,
Oh.
for sure.
Well, I'm growing some of these, Kevin. I don't know if you can talk a little about which is this the H6 and the D6.
Nice.
I got two of those. I haven't sexed only one of them. Show me a hers yet, but the other three of them they haven't shown me sex yet. But they're about to go on the 25 gallons outside. I've been acclimating the plants back and forth like 2 hours every morning for the last 2 weeks. But I think they're ready to take off outside.
Nice. You know what would be kind of interesting to do with these is I got a friend of mine, and a brilliant dude, and what he does is he does male to male only. So he does all his reversals. He finds the males that have the desirous traits as a female, right? So there you use an Edifon, which is basically floral, right? You can just it's a stability solution. They used to use this shit in cannabis as like stabilizers so that your plant won't express male traits, but he uses it to pull out what is the male in its context as a female. And then he uses that as the receiver for the male. And what it does, it gives him basically 75% male, 25% female in the progeny. But what he's finding is that he's getting all these recessive traits that don't move through the female side. And so what he did is he used it to go into all these traditional seed lines we have. And then I connected him to all the people that originally created them, so that he could talk to him and say, hey, when you created this 30 years ago, what were the things that really stood out to you in terms of traits? And that way, what he can do is he can go in, because in the process of breeding, we call genetic drift, which is really losing track of traits of interest. Not that the plant moved, it's that you didn't catch the fact that you lost the plant that had the allele, that had the trait connected to it, and it's not there. And then we went into feminized, which isn't bad either. It's a great tool to fix a trait. But the problem is in that XX configuration, you're not getting some of the recessives from the Y side, and you end up losing traits that way too. So his whole thing was, and he's a biochemist. So he was like, Kev, he goes, what I've been doing is doing all this male to male and digging up all these profiles that I haven't seen in 20 fucking years. It was when I was a kid that I remember this. And what he discovered was it was because we had just lost track. So like if you find some of those killer males, you can just go on Amazon. You can go to the hardware store and buy it. It's FLOREL, floral. And you do 2 applications, and it's going to reverse the male. And it'll let you see what the male is as a female, and what's the aroma, what's the resin. And that way you'll know if you want to utilize that male in your breeding. Because if the male has bad traits, it's not effective. And then the second part is, if you want to breed with it, take that male that you do choose and run that thing till it's fucking dead to determine, does it ever go into sex in its process? Because
exactly.
No, because the intersex movement is it's from both sides of both XY genes are connected to it. And so you need to see, does the male hold that stability? And that's where, like, when you choose males early and say, this is the male I'm going to use, you really have to choose an array of males and then run them all and then find out which ones have the traits you want with the sexual stability. And you can knock back the intersex portions dramatically. And it's and some plants inherently just combine and throw it, and you're going to get out of 20 plants, you're going to get 7 of them that are intersex, but not so much where they explode on day 26, but more like they're popping stamen at like day 50. It almost at the end of its cycle, it'll pop some out. I still try to cull those out as well. But the main thing is that you're able to start reducing the propensity for that intersex survivability so that you don't have any pollen proliferation that occurs from it. And once you start to work that little direction, you have yourself a plant that's been living up in the mountains for 3,000 years. If you can tap into that gene pool and dig into it and open it up and play with it, like that's the whole point. Is that, and that's kind of what we need. We need gene banks. We need the ability to normalize cannabis to, like, this whole fucking seed ban coming up. You go to Texas and you get called the pound of fucking, you get pound of product. You're looking at a life sentence and shit. How the fuck can you do anything normal when you can't do this? And it would be awesome if someone was able to work a line and develop, really hardy, healthy, stable shit that was you able to utilize it to put into your material to increase the resistance and their survivability. Like that to me is when I was younger, I didn't give a fuck, right? Because I didn't understand. I'm like, oh, it's herb, it's everywhere. You get old and you realize that we've done a huge damage to the cannabis population through the compression and the eradication, and now the proliferation of trendy genes into landrace populations, or we would call them indigenous populations, so that we're losing some of the very things that make them special. And now what we have is this swirling whirl of shit that you got to go through and open up and dig into. And so it's not helping us in any capacity. And the solution is going to be CRISPR, where you're going to come in and you're just going to start doing gene editing. But when you edit a gene, genes aren't just isolated, they're connected. They have linkage and drag, they pull left and right, they're in mutual control. So you don't really know what's going to, like, it's the unknown. And as I got older, I was like, man, I said, it would be lovely to see normalized cannabis populations that were healthy and stable and resistant and fulfill the genre. It's not like any one population for all people, but you would need to have, kind of like, I got a friend in Mexico that's been collecting herb for, shout out Brian. He's been collecting for like 40 years, right? So all over the country, he's collected lines from everywhere, then worked them and stabilized them. And he's got this massive collection. And I'm talking to him all the time about the value of it, because what he's been able to do is hold these populations. And I say, listen, I said, these things are priceless because they reflect a region. The name isn't important. It's where it came from. It reflects that altitude, that climate, that soil index. None of this shit was done indoor. It was all outdoor cannabis.
Yep.
And I said, in these populations, once you're able to take a look and open them up and then tighten them up, what you have is the building blocks for production for the future. And for people who say you live in Southern California, you want something that can take that fucking heat. You're living in Arizona. Someone said you can't grow weed in Arizona. Well, if you could fucking grow it in Mexico, you grow it in Arizona. The plant has to be able to take that climate, and that's what we really need is these type of things accessible to the public. The public, the regular people. I don't like cannabis elitism. I never have, and it's been controversial because I always had access to all the good shit, and I always shared it, right? And everyone was always like, you share stuff with people that aren't special. They're not the elite people. And I'm like, well, who the fuck determines if you're elite or not? What I know is you're polite. What I know is you're cool. I don't give a fuck if you have any money. You're cool. If I add money, now you have money and you're cool. But people that are pricks that have money are just pricks with money. Right? It doesn't fucking make them any better. And to me, cannabis in America has been cannabis elitism. And it fucked up our entire way we approached weed. We didn't share it correctly. And that's why, I love the story of that guy, Doug Fur. There's a guy in Humboldt County named Doug Fur. You're gonna love that fucking name. But Douglas, he gets popped, and he had weed that finished earlier. He wouldn't, because at that time, most of the herb they were growing here was coming from Mexico. Right, so it was finishing a little bit later. The helicopters would come in October, So he was like, man, if I could get this shit to finish by, the end of September, I would be able to pull my crop before the copters came. So the copters come earlier now. They come in September, right? So the helicopters learned that, we just got to come earlier. But at that time, Douglas's strategy was to get earlier finish in cannabis so that he could run his harvest. So he hooks up with the rug merchant, and they hook him up with a connect in Pakistan. He goes to Lahore. He hooks up with some Tira Valley farmers. They bring him, a couple key of seed. He takes that seed and breaks it up into like 12 packages and sends it all over the U.S. so that hopefully one of the packages would make it. And half of them did. But the other half that didn't, we were laughing because when at that time, if you were in the post office and you grabbed some shit, you didn't throw it in the fucking trash. It wasn't the cops that grabbed it. It was people who working at the fucking post office. To me, those are foundation packages that influence the South, the West, all these regions. But what he did that makes him such an incredible figure in cannabis history is he shared the material. When he got the seeds back to Humboldt, he did not hoard them himself. He allowed everybody around him to get access to the gene pool so everyone could utilize this material to hybridize their work, to get earlier flowering plants so that the community would benefit. Right. And so and Doug's, he's in his 80s now. Right. I just turned 60 last week, but he's in his 80s and he's still kicking ass and still walking barefoot in the woods and but his story was inspirational. So when we went to Pakistan, that's what I told the guys. I said, really, let's go retrace the footsteps of Doug Fir. And even though he never went up into those mountains, it was the fact that he went to Pakistan to get material, to bring back for specific purposes that he then shared. And so I said, that's what I'm going to do. I said, instead of me taking this stock and making any money on it, which I have no issue with, it's just that for me, what I wanted to operate in the spirit of Doug Fir and release this material to people, that people have access to it. And then it brings attention. And then people who don't have the funds to buy were able to get free stock. And then people who wanted specific shit or had the funds could go through Green Walrus or through Landrace. And what I wanted was to bring attention to the project and attention to the people and attention to the people of Pakistan because they have been so demonized, right? We got such an anti-fucking Muslim attitude. It's trippy, man. It's trippy to see all this, like this religious fervor all the time of the fucking hatred to everybody other than you. And it lumps billions of people into this untouchable category. And I'm like, God damn, if you just put that prejudice the fuck down, you'd be amazed at how nice human beings are when you meet them at their own level. And I just don't agree with that nonsensical prejudice. And so the goal was to utilize the trip to try to bring some goodwill to people that needed it, which were people up in the mountains of countries that have, just like most of Americans aren't fucking doing dumb shit. They're not all being racist assholes. They're not all being pricks. There's every place you go, there's good people. And that's really what you got to focus on. And to me, Good Herb brings those people together. And it allows there to be a community in cannabis that's based on just being decent. And herb is the vehicle that we get to drive to that location in. And because it's a non-violent, non-aggressive type drug, it brings out some, beautiful directions. And being able to use the plants themselves and be able to get the knowledge and the benefit helps us all just understand better what we do. Like I'm involved right now in a space project, right? It's called Martian Grow. You can look it up online, Martian Grow. And what it is I got seeds in space right now, and they'll come down in 9 months. And when they land, I sent them seeds for space and seeds for control. They'll take them and run them. Because what science has been doing is science been sending plants up into space for decades for mutagenesis testing. And the Chinese are the ones that are just going wild with this shit. But the number one wheat variety in China, so more people are eating this variety of wheat than any other variety in China, is a direct result from mutagenesis testing in space, because what they found was a wheat germplasm that when it was mutated, it produced 14% more than any of the other wheat plasms. So it becomes the #1 wheat variety they use. And so, yeah, so the testing's fascinating. But what was cool about the project was the fact that scientists that have nothing to do with herb all agreed that if you were going to approach terraforming, this development of other planets, other moons in space at some time, cannabis was an essential crop for the human being, because it's such an effective bioreactor that you can make food and fuel and all kinds of products from the chemistry. You get medicine. It's such an incredibly important plant that they said that fucking thing deserves to go up, because we see it as an essential plant for the human movement through space. And people were losing it over that shit. I got all kinds of shit from this. Canada shouldn't be in space. It's like, look. The fucking point is that people that aren't involved in herb are finally agreeing that herb has a validity. That means that it's one of these foundation plants that are directly connected to human development and the future of human development. So, like, that kind of shit's fascinating. Right. You know, like we're up in orbit right now. In 9 months, that shit'll come down in a capsule, and we'll see what takes place. But I just loved the project, and I think the people that were involved in it were hella cool too. So that's why I got into it. And it's just the beginning of creating like a new cannabis reality, to where we understand that cannabis is far more than a simple drug. And that if we're able to look at it and be able to have a better perspective, then we'll do better in our usage of it as individuals, because we'll have a say in how we approach the vote. If all the Americans are saying legalize that shit, it's hard for the politicians to go against it, because politicians their only goal to me is to be reelected. So they do things that let them get reelected, not necessarily what's good for you. And when everyone is in disagreement, it's dangerous for them to disagree. And the drug war was so complete for so long that it just destroyed, you know, millions of people's lives. I mean, fuck, they were trying to steal my kid. You know, when I got popped in 2000, they were trying to take my fucking kid. He wasn't even in the fucking space. It was that I was this unfit parent now because I was a fucking cultivator, and I had to go get a whole separate set of attorneys to go fight that fucking case while I'm fighting the legal case. And, you know, they want to steal your kid, and they want to send him into foster care because they get funded for that too. They get bonuses for that shit. And then when they're in foster care, they get bonuses for putting them on psychotropic mood controlling drugs. And if you keep them on the drugs for X amount of time, they actually get money after the kid leaves the house. My friend's family went through this whole thing. So like, I'm no expert on this, but I know people that this happened to. And I'm just like, holy shit. You create a system that is financially a siphon off of the initial thing of you a bad person with weed. And it wreaked fucking havoc. And in all these countries around the world, it's still taboo because we created that taboo. And so if we're in the position to where we can change it in any capacity, that's a massive change. And like I said, when I was young, you know, you see it different. I was a commercial hustler. And as I got older, I started to understand, especially through medical cannabis, the impact of herb on people who had without doubt medical need. And it polarized my view. And then I keep meeting people from all over the world, and I keep realizing how little I really know. And eventually it gets to the point where basically I call myself a cannabis idiot, where I know enough, but not a lot.
Word.
Man.
That was a lot of knowledge you dropped on us, Kevin.
No, it's all good, man.
My brain is still
I was
hurt.
having a hell of a time getting on the podcast too, man. The StreamYard shit was not working. So me and Pete are talking, and I'm like, help me, Pete. And he's like, copy and paste that shit and put it in the browser, because my app wasn't working. It's something's a loop. but it was cool because no, I like what you do, Jamal, and I respect your work, and you're a good dude, and so it's always a pleasure to be involved with cool people and hang out. And then I heard you talking about the Mexican influence in Hawaii, and I trip out because we've completely taken fucking Mexico out of the conversation, like they had no impact at all. And I wrote a chapter for a school book in college, and they took this part out, but it was about the reality of it's Mexico that created the American fucking weed scene. In that 1910 time when the Mexicans were coming back up into California because of the conflict in Mexico, they brought with them the music, the food, the culture, the marijuana.
Yeah.
And it's what swept through and created our modern culture. And if you look back around 1914, you can go and look at the paper headlines, and they were targeting Mexicans, saying these marijuana smoking Mexicans are going to steal your jobs. And I'm cracking up because 120 fucking years later, they're still stealing our jobs. I'm like, how many fucking jobs can you steal after 120 years, right? But the rhetoric was created then, and it was so effective that it's still used today. And I trip out because I'm like, whoa, Mexico had an unbelievable relationship with cannabis, and smoking cannabis is a Mexican fucking trait, because Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Iran, they're not smoking fucking weed. They're smoking hash.
No, they
and what we did is we took the hash plant, but not the hash culture. So we smoke hash plants, and only recently have we redeveloped an American hash society. But if you're smoking herb, that is a Mexican fucking trait. That is how they consumed it. And so I laugh because I'm just like, and I'm as white as it fucking gets. Like, I'm fucking New England white, you know, albino. Look at the color. No fucking melanin in my skin. And I trip out because I'm just like, look, at some fucking point, give the people who worked these populations some fucking credit. I'm like, we created a narrative to where everyone in Asia is an idiot. Mexicans are fucking idiots. Everybody's dumb but us. I've had people tell me here in the States, we're the ones that saved cannabis. If it wasn't for us, cannabis would have been eradicated. And I'm like, let me get this straight. You and your fucking brother in your closet kept the fucking Earth population intact. I said, and you fucking believe that without a question. I used to hear it all the time. We're the ones who created the industry. Who created this shit. And I'm like, bro, you're fucking the last link on a chain that goes back fucking 15, 16,000 years of recorded history, maybe 100,000 fucking years of non-recorded. And we somehow believe we're the integral component. And what it does, it just doesn't allow us to create the global relationships needed to really understand the plant and to be able to understand what plants work best for us and how do we benefit. You know, for me, if all cultivation, all commercial cultivation got shut the fuck down and it all went to home grow, I'd be fucking cool with it. If I had to choose a new career, I would, if that was was the alternative. Like someone said, you can continue what you're doing or everybody gets to grow their own smoke. I'd be like, everybody grow their own smoke. Create a fucking culture where people actually are cool to each other and the plant gets to flourish, and you start to see, because someone says, what's a Humboldt strain? I said, whatever the fuck made money. Like, give me a Humboldt strain. It's the shit that made money. There was no indigenous Humboldt shit. There's no American indigenous Humboldt weed, American weed. We were about the money society because it was so scarce and valuable. But if you allowed it to normalize, you'd have Sonoma, you'd have Orange County pot, you'd have San Bernardino, you'd have Arizona, you'd have very specific things that match the soil index, the climate, the light cycles, the preferences of the people. Like in my fucking fantasies, when I'm sitting there, you know, smoking weed, go, man, what would be a great thing? It'd be that. That would be the optimal to me, because at the end of the day, it's the only way you're going to get the diversity to return. Otherwise, all we're doing is going after some very specific shit that is determined by some really, really fucked up testing, where none of the tests are accurate. They fucking you can send the same shit to the same lab 5 fucking days in a row and they all come back different, right? It isn't even different labs. It's the same lab. We used to do this all the time.
Right.
The fucking range in results is insane. So I don't have any faith that it's not this definitive thing, but because we deem it to be, it is. And then we measure, it'd be like measuring my fucking fingernail and using that as the metric to determine my entire fucking body. Right? Saying that he has a short left fingernail, he's all fucked up. And I'm like, no, actually, I fucking cut it short. It'll grow back by tomorrow. It doesn't make any sense. And so the problem is that we utilize science as if it's this unbelievable all-knowing fucking entity, when really you're looking at 1,000 different things and we're measuring 40. And then we're pretending that those other 960 things we're not looking at don't fucking matter because science has it deemed it important. Right? And I'm not anti-science. I'm not a technical Luddite like that at all, but I'm clear that it's just a tool. Science is a tool, just like AI. It's a fucking tool. And if you use it correctly, it can do some amazing shit. But if you allow it to run wild on its own and then treat it like it's a sentient being, it's just inaccurate. And herb to me is so complicated and complex and multifaceted that there's nobody that's got their fucking hand around it, period. Because no one person's, even Dave Watson. And I think, Dave might have been the greatest cannabis geek on earth. But even Dave only knew what Dave knew. Right? So hopefully we're able to, use podcasts like this to get people to be able to explore their own desire and not worry about what anybody else thinks. Seek things that work for them, seek the effects they like most. And if they get some really killer shit, share it out with people that they're next to, so that you have a community that occurs that's pretty sharing and kind.
Heck yeah, man. Yes.
All right,
Yeah,
it's new, brother.
Man.
I got to split, Jamal, man. But thanks you so much for having me on. And
heck yeah.
Hey,
to see you,
thank you,
brother.
Kevin, for
Thanks for
everything you do,
jumping
man.
on, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on, Kevin. Thanks for sharing those seeds.
Yes.
Can't wait to see what you get out of it. And then, like I said, once I get these selections popped out, I'll get you a cut of that. And then once I give it to you, you can do whatever the fuck you want with it.
For sure.
So if you
Thank
other guys
you.
want a copy, they're welcome to have one too. But it'll be that Diesel PK.
Awesome. Have an
Bye.
excellent day, Kevin.
You too, my brother. Be good.
Hey, we
All right,
see
later.
ya.
Take care, baby.
And THC Garage, thank you for coming on.
Man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I feel like, it was a blessing to have Kevin come on and
Oh, hell yeah.
share some knowledge with us. Yeah, somebody said, thanks, Uncle Kevin. It's just really, it's such a nice way for me to start my weekend with, meeting you in person or, online,
Oh, definitely.
and, having, the same values that we're, parroting, having Kevin. I mean, he's, it's like all the things we're saying, he's saying the exact same things. It's very reaffirming that, that we're on the right track and that we're,
Oh yeah.
that I don't know. I feel really good right now. I feel like, the knowledge that you shared was really amazing today
Oh,
with,
appreciate it,
with
man.
your knowledge
Appreciate it.
and, even the stuff I hadn't really thought about Mexican cannabis just takes me on a whole new, a whole new thing. And that's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah, I wanted to hear you keep going on the Mexican stuff. I mean, it sounds like you've done a lot of growing and exploring.
I mean, we'll have to have you on again, THC Garage.
Yeah,
We'll
let's
have
do
to
it.
have
You know who another guy that really interesting to really pick his mind. I think you mentioned it before. It was La Paz.
Yeah.
He really grows a lot of Mexican too, and it'd be pretty cool to pick his mind too if you can get in at the same time. That'd be
And
really
I'll
cool.
and definitely I'll shout out La Paz because he is selling some of these Pakistani lines. So I would encourage
man.
people to look out for him. And Landrace.Genetics also has these lines available. And also, don't forget that, I mean, I'm assuming Daga has something around.
Hell yeah. I appreciate it.
I don't.
We do.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it is, but
new stuff in too.
yeah. And I have honestly a couple years of work that I need to get onto Daga. I have some second round of Malawi lines that I'd like to give out there that are legit. And then the last year I did some Z3 hybrids, which are pretty interesting. And this next year I'm doing some Mango BX stuff. So that's what's going on for this next year is Mango BX. And I'm thinking about presenting my seeds in like a different way and maybe just offering like the whole line as one thing just because I'm going to be starting graduate school and sometimes you just got to do things in a different way. So
Exactly. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool thing because you will give you a full view of the whole genetic pool as a one single line, you know.
yeah, and I mean, I don't know, like just life, like different things become important in life, and at this point, it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I feel like I want to get the seeds out there more than I'm like trying to capitalize off of each pack type of thing. Because I mean, I haven't given anything to Peter in years, so I make seeds every year. I just it's been life has been life.
Right.
Life be life.
Yeah, life be life
What are you going to graduate school for? That's awesome.
I'm going to graduate school to be a therapist.
Oh, nice.
And my focus will probably be
what
on
kind of-
African American children or children and African American men as being one of them. And I feel like all of us at this time need some support with everything going on in the world.
Right, exactly.
Um,
Especially with your mind.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. So, I would just say, sending love to everybody out there and support. And thank you, Peter, for continuing to bug me to, come on and do this. And, I appreciate it.
I gently let me mute you because we're still getting the echo when other people talk. But yeah, no, I'm glad you don't mind my
you're still good, I
gentle
think.
nudging and pestering.
Somebody got muted.
I muted him.
Oh.
You can't hear me?
No, I can hear you.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess with that we'll end it and hope everybody has an excellent day.
Thanks, Jamal.
Peter, thank you for everything. Jamal,
For sure.
we'll catch you the next time.
Yeah, we'll get more of the Grow Along crew on next time. If you